Good morning, everybody. Sorry about the little bit of a late start there. We were dealing with a few little technical difficulties, but everything looks great now. Sound is good. There's Lou's beautiful face. If you didn't know, Lou was the first guest on my channel ever back in March of 2021. So it's been almost a year and a half since you've graced this show. We ran into each other at LVO. Which I have those dice that you gave me, by the way. I still have them. Uh, I guess I should back up actually. Uh, quick intro. I'll try to be quick. Lou has been playing 40K since forever. He's been playing Deathwatch since you could. He is a marvelous painter, a fantastic player, and an all-around excellent guy who really values sportsmanship over anything else. He has a personality and an outlook on the game that I think is very positive. And not only is he a good guy and experienced at the game, he also knows a bunch of the playtesters and the rules writers for the game. So he has a super deep well of knowledge just around 40K in general and Deathwatch specifically. So I'm going to shut the hell up now. Lou, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. Appreciate that introduction, Rick. It's good to connect again with you. It's been a fat minute, but man, time flies. I can't believe it's been a year and a half already. And I think we were playing kitty corner at LVO, weren't we? Right next to each other, and
We were, yeah.
got to wave and nod and swap some dice real quick and say hello, and that was good fun. I think the guy that I was playing against, I want to say his name was Anthony. I'll have to look it up. Super great guy. Turns out in that particular match, I thought he beat me, and then he said, "I can't win this way." He's like, "You didn't score your paint." He said, "You beat me with paint," and we had already put the score in. And so he walked me up to the judges and they switched the score. But, that's the kind of player that we're dealing with right now, is that kind of a player rather than that other guy. And I think we've just about weeded him out of the community. So, if you're one of those fringe players that, wants to get an edge in, using rules to get a win rather than just being a good, competent general, then I think you're about your way out of the camp, out of the 40K community. So good riddance to bad rubbish is what comes to mind when I think of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the kind of thing that I've only been playing this game for like 2 years, and I heard horror stories, man. Like but yeah, I haven't had a single bad experience. Granted, I haven't played a ton of games, but
Yeah, the last few years have really, really good. And I've been meaning to write an article about that experience because he was such a classy guy, right? That was such a classy move. Great sportsmanship, and those are the kind of players that we're seeing now in the game, and it's just awesome. I love it. Just a fantastic community, really.
well, would you like to jump into your conversation about your Salt Lake City matches? So you just went to the Salt Lake City Open.
Correct.
You were the top Deathwatch player there.
I was the only Deathwatch player there, so probably a good thing I didn't come in
Well,
second place. Huh?
well, I mean, my statement still stands.
That's true.
You came in 28th, which at first glance doesn't sound that great, but this was a major, right? Like,
This was a tournament, yeah, and I think I
yeah,
sent you a list of the players that were there, and there were several that were ranked in the top 100 or top 250, that bracket,
yeah,
and there were a couple there that were in double digits, so
yeah.
ranked 12th,
Uh, I
80th.
I took a real brief look at that list, and there were some names like Ben Neal was there, and he's like ranked the 11th best player in the world or something. There were a couple of really big names there with really like fantastic um, abilities
Yeah,
to run
yeah, and I,
generals.
I think Ben actually dropped. I don't think
Oh,
I
really?
don't think he but still, I mean, the caliber and quality of players was just off the charts. It was really good.
That's awesome. So, Jimothy, he was saying that he was gonna watch this from the poolside in Italy, and it turns out he actually is. So, I'm in my office at home, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Thanks for swinging by, man. That actually reminds me. If like we're doing this live so that you guys can ask us questions. So if you have any questions at all, ranging from anything 40K related, just jump in and go for it. So 28th, man, like I gotta say that means you're like top 10% at least. I think there were almost 300 entrants into this tournament. So like that puts you like better than I've ever placed. So uh
I could have. We'll talk about this later on. I could have gone 5-1, but it would have felt like clubbing a baby seal in one particular instance, and I didn't want to do that. That was my fifth matchup. We'll get to that.
okay. Well, you want to talk about your list, or I know there were some other Deathwatch things that you wanted to talk about. I don't know if you wanted to stick that at the front or the end. Up to you, my man.
We'll weave it in.
Okay.
We can start talking about the competition and talking about the matchups and stuff like that, and then I can address a couple of things because there are some questions in the community right now that we probably ought to talk about. And I did share briefly on the Discord some of the interactions that I've had with Hal, my play, and Anthony Demore. Got to give a shout out to Anthony, who's the other diehard Deathwatch player, out of the gates, and so the people that were involved in writing the rules were watching us very closely, and there were some things that some of the meta chasers, when they would jump on the bandwagon with Deathwatch, would do that were like, nah, I don't think that's the thing. And so yeah, I kind of know where we were, where we're at, and where we're going as a result of that as well. So I'll share some of those snippets along the way.
All right. Well, very cool. You have some you've woven in some of the things that we see pretty commonly with Deathwatch, but then you've also kind of picked your own little bits here and there, which I very much like. Let's start with your captain. So obviously this is an AOR build. I should probably start there. You're starting with one command point, so really digging into the well of the crazy warlord traits and relics that we get. We'll start with your. Oh,
so
go ahead.
Full disclosure. The issue with that was my chaplain for the last 3 tournaments has been rolling ones consistently to do canticles and litanies, and I'm like, I can't risk it. I've got to have. So I would have put ties that bind on my chaplain because I think that's important to hold down objectives late game when you're kind of on your heels with low model count. But I couldn't risk it. So that's the only reason why that 1 CP is there.
So I know I feel you there, man. Like Master of Sanctity is a must have for me to go ahead and add that extra reliability to the chaplain, because rolling a 1 or 2 is just, you're like, well, I was gonna charge this turn,
Right,
but I guess I'm not. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, you can charge, but then if you're dropping something in from deep strike, then of course you're 9 inches away instead of 7. So
yeah, it can get rough, but first of all, I want to answer Sindri's question. You don't have any of these in your list, but what do you think about Laz Fusel eliminators?
I think they're incredible right now. In fact, at this particular game, Scott Rumpel, who ended up going to the final matchup and is a brilliant player, he's a friend of mine, he's a teammate of mine. He built them back into his list, and those things tank like crazy.
Don't they?
And oh yeah, and because of the damage output, they're a threat, right? So you either deal with them, or they just sit there and chip away at your big models. And what's cool about Deathwatch is if you decide to go Raven Guard, now all of a sudden, if they're outside of 12, you're getting cover. And if they're outside of 18, you're getting the dense cover bonus as well. So it just makes them even more tanky.
Yeah.
And, in our teams, of course, you can put them in your Spectre skill teams. When I put them in, I like to put in the comms array and then combat squad them out. And then if you put um, fire and fade on a sergeant with that particular unit, then you've got a really crazy unit that's popping out of cover, sniping knights or tanks and stuff like that, and then jumping back into cover. And so you can really, I think, get really good use out of them in our Deathwatch army every now and right now. I think they're awesome.
Yeah, I haven't played with any yet, but man, the camo cloak just makes AOR like much better. And then you can smoke screen those bad boys. You can transhuman those bad boys. So what's that? They have a 3-up normally. In covers a 2-up. They're ignoring AP 1 and 2 at that point. So you need to hit them with AP 3 to even drop them back to their 3-up. So AP 4 to drop them to a 4-up to anyway. Like
Correct.
it just gets nuts. And then you can just like if they do wind up with some big AP weapon, you can just I mean you can jump all those buffs on them and keep them alive just forever.
Well, yeah,
and 3 damage is
that's juicy. It's juicy, and like I said, if you put the fire and fade on them, you're going to move. So you'll be hitting on 3s, but if you got a comms array in there, they're re-rolling 1s off your leader. So it just makes them really useful.
Quinn Techie, who is my last guest from Wednesday, so 2 days ago, he places very, very well with the Grey Knights army in a whole bunch of different tournaments, including LVO. He's wondering actually why Deathwatch, Lou. I know we talked about this in our last video, but that was a year and a half ago. So
yeah. So for those in the community that don't know, I'm a former Marine. Joined the Marine Corps right out of high school. Absolutely loved it and I've been a gamer my whole life. Back in the '80s, you had to be a closet gamer. You couldn't. It was weird. It was like not the norm to be a gamer. Now it is, and it's awesome. But so when I saw Warhammer 40K, in fact, I built a similar type of game with my buddies and soldiers when I was about 12. So when I saw 40K, I was just immediately sucked in. And being a former Marine and seeing Space Marines, and I'm an Aliens fan as well, the movie genre, there was almost no choice, right? You had to play Space Marines. And when I first started reading about the Deathwatch years ago, this was long before we even had a rule set or an army. I was just really intrigued by the background story behind the Deathwatch, and kind of the special ops of Marines, and it was just too cool. It was too cool, and I was army hopping. I played Ultramarines, and I played Imperial Fist, and I played Space Wolves, and then right around 5th edition, I was like, why don't I just play them all? So I painted my army up to look like Deathwatch, right? And then there weren't any rules back then, so in a tournament, it's like, oh, you're going to be Iron Hand, or you're going to be Necrons. I'll be Iron Hands. You're going to be Orcs. I'll play Crimson Fist. And so, in some ways, it allowed me a little more flexibility to kind of cater to what I was playing against. And then when they finally dropped the rules, I was like, I'm all in. And so this is where I hang my hat. This is it. I will say that one of my second armies is Deathwatch, and I went to the ATC a few years ago with a Grey Knights army, and so I do play Grey Knights, and I love playing Grey Knights as well. So.
I love the lore of both of those armies. Although I love the Puritan aspect of like the Grey Knights, where they will not they have these crazy like sanctified weapons and armor and this insane training and mental fortitude. But on the other side, I love that the Deathwatch is pragmatic as fuck. Like they will take Necron tech and use it to go kill Necrons, and they don't care. Like they're like, nope, we're getting the job done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's none of these like higher ideals or whatever. We're completing the mission, end of story. And so they don't care. Like they're effectively committing heresy, and they don't give a shit because it helps to complete the mission. So I like both of those sides of the story.
And I love the fact too that, like you said, I mean, they are so utilitarian, and they're so focused on getting the job done. Uh, they're the shock troops of the Marines, and they're good at it. And one of the crazy things is, whoever wrote the rules, kudos to them to bring that flavor out of the Deathwatch because they can play that way as well.
Hmm.
They hit really super hard,
Yeah,
and it's awesome. But
the Brotherhood of Veterans strat, when the ninth ed supplement book hit, I was like reading a Goonhammer article, I think, and I was like, okay, I don't know anything about this faction, so I'll read up about it. When I read that strat, I was like, oh man, now I have to get a whole army. Because the Brotherhood of Veterans strat I thought was the coolest. Like, I can be anything I need to be. Right now, I have the Swiss Army knife, and I'm opening it up to the can opener or whatever, and here we
yeah,
go, right? Like, and then they took the AORs, they took that idea, and they basically made it army-wide, and then, like, it's an incredible army to play, even if it is complicated.
it is, and that that army-wide Brotherhood of Veterans is not only just super fluffy, right, based
Yeah,
on the lore, but I think that is probably the best tool we have, honestly, in the Army of Renown. It's so useful. The caveat, though, is that you need to know the different armies and how they play in
yeah,
the meta, and of course, stuff like that, and that takes practice. But man, so good.
yeah. I completely um agree. It's fluffy and it's interesting. Although, yes, I've been meaning to do a so you want to play Deathwatch like video series. And one of the things is I kind of am thinking about how to comically say like don't in a way because unless you've been playing a long time or you're like a bulldog for knowledge, the
Yeah,
Deathwatch rule set is so deep and
yeah, it's
easy to miss the intricacies of how it plays very well that I wouldn't recommend it at least for a new player, right?
no,
Like,
I
but
mean,
unless that's your thing, which I'm kind of that way. I'm super analytical. That stuff is very interesting to me. So like I just make cheat sheets and practice, practice, practice. Uh, but if you're like just dipping your toe in, and you're not quite sure if you're into this hobby yet, maybe don't start with one of the most complicated armies in the game.
yeah, start with the vanilla Space Marine army. Just if you want to, be aggressive, maybe play Blood Angels or White Stars. If you're a shooty guy, play Imperial Fist. Start there, and then work up to the Death Watch.
Yeah, 100% agree. But uh shall we? I do love the Raptors chapter. I love their OD green, and I love that they are also very pragmatic and like kind of like shock troops. But we should probably talk about the Salt Lake Open and your list.
Yeah,
Um,
let's do
although
it.
anybody who's in this, like Lou and I, we're gonna meander. This is not gonna be on rails at all. Just FYI. Like this is gonna. So hold on to your butts. Uh, so you've got a captain.
Yeah,
He has a jump pack. He has a
yeah.
thunder hammer. He has the Eye of Abiding, which is an interesting tech choice, and I want to ask you a little bit more in a moment. I know why he has the Inferno pistol, or at least I think I know why. So just hold on, and I'll explain what I think. Um, you have Relic of the Chapter, and you brought, or you took Paragon of their chapter, Merciless Butcher. So if I remember right, that's the one where they get +1 to wound if they have more than 3 models around them or something.
+1 to attack.
+1 to attack. Right.
Yeah,
Which.
plus
Okay.
Terra War rate, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I was waffling back and forth between the Teeth of Terra on him and the Thunder Hammer. In fact, I've master crafted the Thunder Hammer before, so it's
That.
4
Okay.
damage. After playing in the tournament, I think the Teeth of Terra would have been a better choice, and I'm actually tweaking the list now with a librarian. Not to bring some of the standard stuff that we're used to seeing, but I'm going to put Might of Heroes on him. So by the time you're done with this guy, he's going to be Strength 7, 11 attacks with the Teeth of Terra, -2, 2 damage, and he's just going to chew stuff up. It's going to be stupid, ridiculous. But the Eye of Abiding ignores modifiers to hit, so
Yeah.
you're going to swing and hitting on twos, and even with even with most armies where they're going to be, a lot of guys with their big beefy squads aren't min modding anyways, and so you're swinging, 7, 8 times with the Thunderhammer, and you're just wrecking stuff. And he did work. He definitely did work, but I think I can get more usefulness and utility out of him.
Yeah, let me. Aren't there more? Isn't there more to the Eye of Binding? It's plus. Isn't it like +1 to hit, and then you get extra, and you ignore all modifiers or something?
Got it right. Got it right.
Here it is. Nope. So it's every time the bearer makes an attack an unmodified die roll of 6.
And vulnerable saving throws can't be taken.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that added bonus, and it it will proc every now and again with that, and it's always fun to see that happen. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Abby can't save against that one. Sorry.
I was just gonna ask if you've gone and punked Abaddon yet.
We have, yeah.
That's beautiful. Then we have a Primaris Chaplain on bike. So, Canticle of Hate, Master of Sanctity. We have, I don't see the beacon on here, which is interesting.
Yeah,
like the beacon bike chaplain is absolutely the linchpin of my entire list.
So maybe this is the time to talk about this now. So there's been some debate about teleport homers and Proteus kill teams. Can you take them? Can you not take them? A lot of the rules is written for a lot of the units require certain minimum things. Being involved in, sort of the early on, how do we make Deathwatch work? I was part of those conversations, and so I didn't take it for this simple reason. One, you absolutely can take teleport homers and Proteus kill teams. That was the intent in 8th edition. It was absolutely the intent in 9th edition. But sometimes the rules are written in a way that are kind of wonky and don't make sense and they're confusing, and so we always try and defer to how it's definitively written, if it makes sense. But this one is not as clear. So let me start off by saying that the reason why I didn't take it, the Beacon of Jealous, is because that requires you to be wholly within 6 inches from the caster. And in the current meta, I really felt like we needed more board control. So by putting teleport homers on 3 of my kill teams, I've got 2 smashy bashy kill teams with all these heavy Thunderhammers in there. Put the box of Spirit the Chaplain because it gives him a 3-inch aura buff, so now he's got a 9-inch burst to either side of him, and I can bring these kill teams in turn 2 and drop them in and still get the aura off, because his litany of hate and his other auras are now 9 inches to either side, so I'm not restricted by the 6-inch fully within beacon thing. And so this particular list operates off of turn 1, I'm going to go Raven Guard, and you're going to have a tough time shooting or removing me if you can even see me, because I play behind cover pretty religiously. And then at the end of that turn, these units come off the board, and then turn 2, the Chaplain rockets up the board, and now you've got 3 units in your face ready to kick your teeth in.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah. So
that was a principle.
Okay. So you're I was actually looking up the Vox just really quick because I knew it increased aura abilities. But I knew it had a caveat on it for what it wouldn't increase. And it doesn't increase psychic abilities, but it does increase litanies, which is a cool thing that I did not know. So we're gonna make that an Ivar approved moment here. But I am so you're deploying them turn 1, right? Yeah. Then you go turn 1 and you're like yoink, and you just grab them, right? You just suck them right back into space for free. Yep. Then you get, you do a little bit of movement, a little bit of preparation, a little bit of setup. You like get your chaplain where he's gonna explode outward on turn 2, okay? And then turn 2, you do all that. Then you bring down pop, 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 all these like smashy bashy, as you said, teams, and then you just shove them into their face, right?
Yeah, so one of the challenges we have right now is with Necrons, they're hyper scoring and then they're going to get nerfed. We all know they're going to get nerfed, but it's like they sneeze and by turn 3 they've maxed out half their secondaries, right? And the only way to deal with them is to have a very aggressive strike on top of them. So two of
My
these
my
teams,
heart. I love being aggressive. It's my most favorite thing. In
so
40k, I should mention that.
yeah, we'll defer to that. So two of the teams have a heavy thunder hammer and the sergeant, two Vanguard vets. We've got the hammer and the chainsword on the black shield, and then all these lightning claws, right? So
Yeah.
it ends up being like 11 heavy thunder hammer attacks, 5 uh, regular hammers, and then I think 21 lightning claw attacks, and 2 of these kill teams. And then the other kill team that I've got kitted out has uh, 7 heavy flamers, 4 heavy bolters off the Infernus bolters, and then 2 hand flamers. And so turn 2, I've got 4 CP, right? So we rocket the chaplain up, autocast canticles. These 3 teams drop down. They're all within, I've got an 18-inch berth now, 9 inches to either side of the chaplain.
And
now
if you turn him sideways, his base is so big, it's actually like you get another like 3 inches. So really, you
Yep.
have like 21 inches of the board to drop your guys in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now all these guys are there, and I'll typically go Black Templars turn 2 so you can re-roll your charges.
Okay. It's almost like you've thought about this.
I've thought about it a little bit, yeah. And so now all of a sudden it's like, here's these 3 massive kill teams. The one I drop in the middle is the one with all these heavy flamers, and I'll extremist strat that particular kill team and watch stuff disappear, and
Yeah.
then they just rush in. And
I actually. Oh, sorry.
go ahead. No,
Oh,
go ahead.
I just got excited because I was thinking of it like that flamer team. You can use them to blow away screens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So you can bring these teams down. You're getting the +2 to charge from the chaplain, and don't forget, like, when I realized how powerful the additional +3 pile in and consolidate is
Huge.
from that chaplain, like that's in its own way, it's just as good as the +2 to charge. I mean, by itself, the +2 to charge makes that like litany good, but adding in that extra movement, that free movement in the fight phase is just mwah, like it's so good.
Yeah, people forget that in the assault phase, you have to think about it like another movement phase. And when you've got a 6-inch pile in and a 6-inch consolidate, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to see it on the board. In my 5th game this last weekend, I was playing Harlequins, and because he had that 9-inch aura now instead of the 6, I had one of my kill teams in that didn't even get to activate, or not activate, but interact with the Harlequin unit, because that flamer unit deleted it completely. And so they moved another 12 inches, right? 6 inches forward to pile in, and 6 inches again to consolidate in. And now I'm 2 inches away from his next Harlequin unit. And he was just like, oh my gosh, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
But
you say
so
stupid, I say awesome.
it was so effective. It was just awesome. So not this last tournament, but a tournament prior to, one of my friends was playing Crons, and I was measuring behind his screening unit. They were just right behind, and I'm like, so is this like 8 inches back to that unit? He's like, yeah, but why are you measuring? You got to engage his front unit up here. And I'm like, well, I know, but in case they're not there, is it 8 inches behind? And he was just
he's
confused.
like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why would they not be there?
And then I dropped this unit in, and that entire unit of, that infantry unit was gone, and then his Scorpex were right there. Deleted one of his Satan units, and then his barge was, I think, bracketed to the last bracket by the time I was done. But when I rolled the dice, I'm like, okay, here's 42 heavy flamer hits. -2 because I was a dev doctrine, and he was like, you got to hit, right? And I'm like,
Nope.
no, they hit.
They're flamers.
Yeah. And he was like, but it's
Auto
40.
hit, auto wound.
But when it registered, he was like, oh, and then he
Yeah.
let out a bunch of verbal expletives, and all these units were gone. And then I charged in. I got the charge off on that unit and destroyed the Scorpex. And he was just like, man, that's brutal.
Do you see how good of a guy Lou is? He won't even swear on my stream. Like, he's a good dad. He's a good guy. He's just not even. Some would argue a bad Marine though, because like you guys have filthy mouths.
They can, yeah, we can. But I got to keep in mind that my boys are old enough now. If they watch this, I gotta try and set a good example for them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So Dick Johnson was asking about don't they have to be redeployed outside of 9 inches, and that is absolutely true. But we're talking about that bonus of the +2 to charge. Unless I'm missing something, they still are a normal deep strike, so they still cannot come down closer than 9 inches from any enemy models. But also, like you said, with the Voxus Spiritum, and remember how the math on area works. So like every inch you're adding is like, really increasing. That's the overall size, the area of the places that those teams can come down in. And so we're talking about effectively like a 9 by 11 inch oval that he can now drop those teams into 9 inches away from enemy units, get the +2 to charge, and then spank some Xenos.
Yeah, it's pretty potent. When I started testing this, it was the thing I'm always asking is, okay, we've got these great things that are going on with our army. Is there another way to play it? Is there something that we're missing? Is there something that maybe we haven't thought about before? And so this was, definitely something that I'd considered. And let me just, while I'm thinking about it now, because he brings up a really good point. I actually have the 8th edition codex here, and with kill teams,
the ancient tome of a bygone era.
So in the veterans profile, they actually used to have listed the teleport homer. And the teleport homer, it says here that you had to represent it with a model. So one of the things that Deathwatch players that were kind of meta chasers back then would do is they'd put a teleport homer model inside their deployment zone, and they'd put their characters right behind them. And because the teleport homer model was still a model, it would protect the characters because they were not the closest model to the enemy unit, but they were untargetable, so you couldn't shoot them. And it was like, guys, seriously, that's just a dick move. You don't do that. But there were some guys that were doing that, right? The other thing was that with teleport homers on units in 8th edition, there was not the 9-inch caveat that we have now. And I was at the Bay Area Open talking to, you guys will figure out who this is. I'm not going to say his name because he wouldn't want me to, but he's a very well-known influencer in the 40K community, might have a really famous, popular company that probably has a lot to do with the ITC tournament circuit now.
Maybe it puts on a lot of events.
Maybe puts on a lot of events.
A lot of events.
And so we were talking, and I was playing against a Custodes player who was also a Deathwatch player, and I was setting up my units outside of 9 inches, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm setting up outside of 9 inches with my teleport homers." And he goes, "That's the Beacon and Jealous. Where does it say in the rules that you have to put your guys outside of 9 inches?" So I grabbed the 8th edition codex and we were reading it together, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's no 9-inch restriction there. So he and I went over to this other individual that I just mentioned, and we just handed him the codex, and we're like, how do you read this? And he read it, and then he looked at it again, and his eyes went.
So this is a while ago. Like, this is in 8th. This isn't now. Okay.
Yeah, this is not now. This was about 5 years ago. Okay. And then he goes, he was like, holy smokes. He's like, that is way OP. And he
So
looked it up
yeah.
and he looks at us and he goes, don't be surprised if that changes.
All right. So like you're saying that rules is written, the teleport Homer from 8th, like you could drop in 2 inches away
Yeah.
because there's no stipulation. See, this is
Right.
the kind of thing where the game. I talked about this a little bit with Quinn on Wednesday, but like the game is pretty good about using keywords like within an army, but they're really
Right.
bad about it within the game as a whole, right? So
Right.
like whatever you want to call deep strike, because that's what we're calling it, and I know that
Yeah.
that's that's a term from third or something. Um,
Yeah.
you need to have like an overall rule that's like a base rule that says like this is what a deep strike is, whatever you want to call it, teleport assault, I don't know, whatever, right? That's, claims what it is. And then when you describe a unit or a relic or a rule that otherwise changes that, you can be like, this acts like the deep strike, and then use it like a keyword, and then say, but it may be placed within 7 inches and not 9 or something. And that way, anytime anything like that happens, you just slap that like deep strike keyword on it, and at least you're getting a basic idea. And stop making it so that armies do the same thing differently, like fight last, right? Like Jakari does it differently than other armies do, and you're just like, well, I don't understand any of this.
Last stuff, right?
Like,
So,
yeah,
the correct phrase or word here would be reinforcements in the current
sure,
rule book. But deep strike is an old nod back to what we used to call Terminators teleporting in, right?
right,
Just real quick, let me just address the teleport issue. So you'll notice in the current Deathwatch Codex that the kill team Cassius, we all know, has a Deathwatch teleport Homer that accompanies the unit. And if you look at the abilities, it specifically mentions contains a Terminator model. In
mm-hmm.
the Deathwatch Terminator squad, it does not say Terminator model, it says unit. And then when you put your models into kill teams, they regain certain words. So the
Right,
biker gains biker, the Terminator gets Terminator. The intent here was that a Deathwatch Terminator coming into a kill team could bring his war gear, and then he gains the Terminator keyword, effectively allowing him to bring a Homer into the Proteus kill team.
right.
That's what they're trying to do. And so for those guys that are like, absolutely not, you can't bring teleporters into a kill team, I'm telling you that the intent was that you could. That's
Has
one of the. There's been some discussion that you can't do
oh
that.
oh when I mean there was I when the ninth book hit, I know that there was some discussion about that, but I mean, we as a community, as a Deathwatch community, at least, I saw us put that to rest pretty fast. That we all agreed that yes, the
We,
rules as written is a little wonky, but like the intent is pretty obvious. And then once a couple of tournaments ruled that way, we just shut up about it. It's kind of like how um, there was some confusion at first about does the auto wound strat work with flamers? Um, and then somebody found that there was like auto hits in the rare rules or something.
yeah,
It's like rare hits or auto hits count as rolling, and because of the phrasing of the stratagem was like any rolls to hit auto wound, and so folks were wondering if flamers worked. And then a couple of tournaments said yeah, like of course.
right.
And some big tournaments said it, like the London Open or the London GT, and all of that, and everybody's just like, okay. And as far as I know, I thought all of that was like put to rest. I thought that was all done.
It resurfaced a little bit, but I wanted to give a little bit of the background behind that. And Jack, the guy that runs the London tournament, and the judges, two of the five judges that actively judge at the OVO, these are all guys that I interact with and associate with, roll dice with, playing games with, talk with. And so, usually we're not talking about discussions that we have inside the TO chat because we want to be uniform and we want to be ubiquitous across the community. but I'm just sharing that little interaction because
Yeah, gotcha.
I know where the history is there. And I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. A lot of the things that we do now that cost CP for our kill teams, unfortunately, Anthony and I probably inadvertently nerfed because we were using them too much.
Damn you,
Uh,
Lou.
I think I think I shared in the Discord channel the other day. I was playing an orc player at the LVO, and I think it was 2018 or I think 2019 maybe. And again, another one of these individuals associated with the other individual that I was talking about was walking
Who
past my
maybe has a podcast done by this same group that hosts a
yeah,
bunch of these articles or
and
tournaments.
I'm sitting there, and this orc player gets right up against me. In an 8th edition, the Stem the Green Tide was for every model eliminated in Overwatch, they took an inch off, right?
Yeah.
Well, frag cannons back then were stupid, 2d6 shots apiece, auto hitting. I had 4 of them in that squad. Why he chose to charge that squad, I don't know, but he moved up. And they would pull models from the back because they knew that was happening. Well, when you eliminate 13 models out of a 20-inch orc mob, you auto fail the charge, right? And he
Yep.
was 2 inches.
Yeah. Because then it's longer than a 12-inch, and so it can't even be declared
Exactly.
at that
Exactly.
point. Yeah.
And so I heroically intervened with my black shield, slung shot off that, and then I was on an objective, and he just turned and started walking away, and he was shaking his head, and I heard him say under his breath, "That is way too powerful."
It's pretty strong. Yeah.
And
But
so,
like so so it's pretty strong. I think the new one's like fine. It gives us another option to do Overwatch into, so we can actually Overwatch twice into orcs, which
yes,
sometimes they don't expect.
they
That would cost 3 CP though, which now is like
don't CP are a
it's
premium now.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's but like that, you know. But like,
Well,
isn't that part of Deathwatch? Like, don't we want? I mean, we don't want to be stupid overpowered against like Xenos, but we want those tools against Xenos. Like that's our thing. That's their shtick, right? It'd
yeah.
be like having a Grey Knight's book pop out, and then like your anti-demon stuff is just meh.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Or not. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Like our Necron strat is super good.
It is. Yeah. It is.
Our Tyrannid strat now, because they can just put like synapse links everywhere, is not good.
No,
Like
it was
uh,
better in 8th edition that you could target a synapse creature. Like it was basically the lookout sir for the Death Watch on a Tyranid
mhm.
synapse creature. I thought that was more useful.
Yeah, which sounds more useful, but
I thought it was. I use that all the time. I've got a couple of Nids players in my community that I match up with all the time, and they're still good sports about it. They know how to play against their army, or did. It's changed again, but you know, trying to find balance, I think, is really, really important in the game. The imp inside of me wants to see those things happen because it's just freaking amazing, but it brings imbalance to the game. So I really like where we're at right now. We're in a good place.
are we? Because like I know there's a lot of talk right now about just like Marines feel subpar in general. And there are obviously some chapters that are better than others. Like Black Templar still pull out wins a lot of the time. Every now and then you see some Giga Chad like top 10 with Ultramarines somehow. Uh, like you see this stuff, but you don't like it's not consistent. Like right now it is. I'm glad to see that it's not just like AdMech
Yeah.
top 3 are Edmech, top 5 are Drukari, right? Like I'm glad that we're seeing more of that, but like everything at the top right now seems to be Xenos. You got Necrons, you got Nids, you got Aeldari for sure. They're everywhere. They're really good. You know, Hail of Doom is super consistent.
No, real. I think that a lot of it has to do with how your meta sits locally, how you play your army. Because Space
That's a good point.
Marines have some pretty good secondaries. I mean, taking O's of Moment. If you've got a board where you've got 5 objectives and you've got one in the middle, you're just a fool if you're not taking O's of Moment and shock tactics because you're almost getting a 3 for 1 because you got to be in the middle because you got to hold more. You got to be in the middle, so you might as well score while you're there as well. So O's of
Oh,
Moment is an
okay.
obvious choice, and then shock tactics. You're going to be trading with your opponent, so
I
throw it in the middle, let them push you off. Throw another unit in the middle, let them push you off, and you'll play that game. But you'll be scoring on your primaries. You'll be scoring 2 out of your 3 secondaries, and it's just like,
I I was making crazy faces because I confused shock tactics with codex warfare for a bit there. When that's the one where like you have to, if you kill one unit, kill a unit with a weapon that matches your your doctrine, then you get a
uh,
point or whatever.
yeah,
Which Deathwatch is in a keen like
yeah.
a keen spot to actually take that one, but I still wouldn't rate it as good.
I,
Especially with
I
the buff to cripple stronghold and to long vigil, like those are actually pretty good now.
Long Vigil is really, really good. I think it depends on who you're facing again.
Oh,
So,
absolutely, yeah,
if you're playing a Harlequin's army with a bunch of bikes, don't take Long Vigil, obviously, because they're going to just, even if they run a character back into they'll sacrifice a character to deny you those 4 points, right? So, you want to be careful about who you're playing against. But, I mean, even just about every map I'm thinking about right now, if you're playing a Death Guard army, you're silly if you're not taking Long Vigil because they're so
yeah,
slow.
yeah. Like anything that just cannot get up the board quick. Like
Right.
long vigil would be awful against any kind of Eldari, any kind of elves. Don't like it's awful, but
It's a
against
bad
something
choice.
slow and plotting, yeah, it's fantastic. So,
Yeah.
um, and then crippled stronghold, they actually buffed it so that it can't be in your opponent's deployment zone anymore. If I remember right, it has to be in no man's land, which means that you can get to the stronghold way easier than you could before, and it's big points if you complete the action on there. It's like 5 or 6 points, or it was 6 and it's 5 now or
I
something.
think something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody took the curriculum book this tournament, so I'm working off of my old one,
I got mine right here.
the NACTIM Grand Tournament data. But you know, this army that I'm running right now doesn't do well with actions. It wants to fight, so I try and pick secondaries that don't require me to do an action. And there's a couple missions that require you to do a second action. So if you're already having to do one and then you're having to do 2 a turn, you're really hampering and hamstringing yourself because then unless you're taking uh, well, what is it? Operational, the warlord trait that allows you to perform an action and shoot.
Oh
Unless
yeah.
optimized priority. Is that it?
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one. I really like that one. But I run really shooty lists, and I think you run really crumpy lists. So,
Yeah.
because you have all those heavy thunder hammers, which are incredible.
Yeah. Pretty good.
So, cripple stronghold out of the new book is if you perform this action at the end of your movement phase, if you're within the stronghold marker, action is completed at the end of the turn. Blah blah blah. Each time it's four victory points. Oh, and you roll a d6. On a 6, your opponent loses a command point.
So
I
that's
mean,
so definitely right. I mean,
and you,
that's
yeah,
amazing anyway. But
yeah.
for
It's like,
Deathwatch, it's like I'm going to score and I'm going to take a CP away from you.
yeah. I mean, you can't rely on it. It's only a 16% chance, but it's like it's good, right?
Yeah,
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 I mean that's such a kick in the teeth, right? Like they have 2 CP, it's turn 3, they're waiting to there's gonna be a big fight. Um, next turn, they're holding on to that CP to like interrupt, and then you just take away and they're down to 1 or something. It's like, sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean it's at the end of the turn, so you'd have to really think that through, but yeah, losing a command point's not great. Cool. That makes that way more interesting than the one in the ninth book that's right behind you. Like it's, you know, um, Yeah, we are all over the place. I don't even think we got through your HQs on your list yet. And,
We got to HQs. I don't think we got to the kill teams yet.
yeah.
Should we talk those real quick?
Yeah, I do want to bring up one thing though. So
Yeah.
Daryl is in chat. He's Deathwatch dude. Um, and he is lamenting the loss of good frag cannons. Um,
Yeah.
I never
Me
got
too.
to use them, but I
Oh,
love the model. That thing is so cool. It's like a Mark like 19 on crack that they just carry around.
Yeah, it was an anomaly, and it still is for a lot of people. But that's the exact same analogy I use. I'm like, have you ever seen a Mark 19? And they're like, what is it? I'm like, it's a machine gun that shoots grenades. They're like, what?
Yeah.
That's right, cannon
Although,
is.
yeah. Although
It's a
in
machine.
my experience, you get 3 out of there and then it jams.
Yeah, they don't perform real well, but still, just when you hear that thing shooting down range, the pucker factor increases exponentially, and you're going
Chug,
to be
chug, chug, chug,
hiding.
chug.
But that was the whole point, trying to explain to somebody this is a machine gun that's shooting grenades. I don't need to hit you; it's auto hitting you. The
Yeah.
fragmentation alone is going to shred you. And I was playing one of my practice matches against one of my teammates, and one of my kill teams with 4 frag cans in it. I rolled box cars for every single one. So it was 48 shots at strength 6 -1 damage to 2. So it needed to get nerfed, right? But I do miss what he's talking about. It
I
was
don't,
beastly.
man, with with all this Tau like plasma or the like plasma flamers they have, like I don't know if that's like it's D6 plus 2 shots, it's like -3 AP or something. I think it's actually -2, but and I know that there's some doctrine stacking that could make that get a little bonkers if ours was -2, but I'm just like, I don't know. I lament the fact that I also never got to play in 8th, if I remember right. The Primaris bolter weapons had special issue ammunition, and they
Yeah,
took that away for 9th.
if a weapon had the bolter word in it, with the exception of like heavy bolters and stuff like that, but all bolter weapons had special issue ammunition in 8th
Mm-hmm.
edition. It was
Yeah.
awesome. Loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be really fun to have back. It's another versatile choice that we have to know, and it goes back to like you have to know your rules, you have to know the enemy's rules. Like, are they in cover? Are they not? Do they get extra saves? Do you want extra AP? Do you want extra damage? Like, like there's a lot of cool choices we could make. But if you bring Primaris units, you're basically giving up special issue entirely.
Right.
And obviously, like, you don't want 2 damage bolt storm aggressors here. Like, I realize there's probably a limit to where you want special issue ammo. But yeah, I just, as this is kind of the codex creep thing. Like, as these new codexes come out and you're like, okay, our flamers aren't that good, and then you're like, holy crap, this faction's flamers are insanely good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, let's get back to your list. I told everybody in chat this was going to be a meandering talk. So, you have some troops here. You've taken a really interesting choice. You did just a 5-man Fortis team, which is ballsy because in the AOR you have to pick a specialism. You can't get around it. If you bring a kill team, they have to have one. So you had to put Dominatus on here, which is a 25% point tax. So you have a 5-man intercessor team that just kind of sits back on your home objective, I assume.
Yeah, so this list doesn't bring a librarian, which I think is again against the norm for most Deathwatch players with the Army of Renown right now. But I found in my practice matches I was just lacking that extra scoring potential, and the difference that bringing that one team in made to score last turn center objective, getting them on there, was huge. And so I didn't miss my librarian much, but having that extra team to score was massive. It really swung a lot of my games, honestly. And so
Okay.
with my build, I figured out a way now to bring a librarian back in and still keep that extra 5-man unit there.
Ooh.
So I'm excited about it. Yeah, but it was a game changer
Yeah.
for me.
We'll have to talk about that. Like what changes you want to make to the list. I a couple of my first Deathwatch AOR lists had like one normal Deathwatch vet squad with all shotguns and just a 5-man,
Mhm.
and I felt like having to put the specialism on there felt really bad. Because you're already kind of paying a premium for these like Marines anyway, and then you tack that on. And then, you know, I was just bringing them to basically hold a backfield or otherwise move up behind the rest of my army and score stuff. So it sounds like you and I were thinking about using them very similarly. You just decided to bring a Primaris team and not
Honestly,
a
the only
firstborn team.
reason I do is because they were painted. I've got sitting up here on my
That's
shelf
right. That's right.
shotgun vets. I don't play with unpainted models.
I was just gonna remind everybody, Lou won't even do a practice game against friends without a perfectly painted model. Like if it's just base coated or whatever, he won't put it on the table. It has to be like, it has to be tournament like showroom ready. And Lou is an incredible painter, by the way. I'll try to find some of your stuff, like your AP or your Rhino. No, it was an Impulsor. Is nuts. Your Corvus Black Star is nuts, and your Drop Pod is nuts. Like those are just the models I can think of, like right off the top of my head. So
they had to be Deathwatchy. My Rhinos have that same filigree on the side, like you see on the Pauldron. And I was looking at the Impulsor, and I was like, I got to do something a little different. So I found some really cool images on the internet. I'm like, oh, this would be a cool image to put on the side. And so I love the canvas that's available on larger vehicles. You know,
yeah,
so it's
that's awesome,
so
man. Here, I will actually switch over to my web browser view here. You can all see. There it is. You can all see, like, that is the side of his Impulsor. For those of you who listen to this like a podcast, I'm sorry, but basically the entire left side of the Impulsor he painted up like the left pauldron of a Deathwatch veteran. So it is bright silver, and then it has all the text like hand painted on there, and then there's even on the far right side there's a Primaris Marine, and you can tell it's a Primaris Marine. It's incredible. I think you were gonna say something, Lou.
Oh, I was just saying, I don't know how your podcast runs. I don't see that picture on the screen, but I'm assuming that everyone else can. So that's cool.
You get the, you just get to see my face. Everyone else, I've got like, you know, like visual aids up on the screen. If you watch the playback, you'll see it all. But yeah,
cool.
His entire left side of his Corvus Black Star looks like this, the whole wing. And then the same with his drop pod. He went through all of that is meticulously done by brush. Other than I think you do a base coat of the actual silver with your airbrush, but otherwise, I think this is no.
The brush strokes for me is the old school, and old school is new school. I started airbrushing clear back in 1985, before a lot of you guys were probably even born. So I still have it. It's just
I was 1 year old. Thank you very much.
So I haven't airbrushed in a long time. I like to do brush work. That's where I hang my hat. So
yeah, you like your stuff has. I've been just like scrolling through things, and then I'm like, wow, that's great, and then I learn, oh, that's Lou's work, of course. Yeah. All right, back to the list again. So we're getting into the core here of your troop choices. You have 4 Proteus kill teams, which I love. You have that one that you said is like all flamer heavy. You got the Black Shield in there. You got the Infernus heavy bolters, which I love. I think that's been a hidden tech choice for a long time that I was waiting for people who are better than me at this game to figure out how to use them. For those of you that don't know, an Infernus heavy bolter is a heavy bolter with a heavy flamer on it, and you can fire them both at the same time.
Yeah, heavy flamers underslung. So
yeah. So
with
you pop
flamers,
down. Yeah.
they just delete stuff, right? They just delete stuff, and that unit also has a bunch of power fists in there. So they drop in, they frag a bunch of stuff, and then your opponent's freaking out, and they're like, well, "What do I do with them?" Well, if you don't charge me, I'm going to charge you, and you're going to get smacked down with all these power fists on the sergeant, the black shield, the terminators, and stuff. And it's a huge threat. It's just a huge threat. And I personally feel like that flamers are.
I think there. You're back. We lost your video for a moment, and everybody got a split second to see what you see, not what they normally see.
But the flamers for Overwatch are huge. I love the Indomitor kill team with the Inceptors because you're going to get 40 shots off pretty reliably, but with the flamers, the point value is about the same for that kill team, but it just does a much better job in Overwatch, I think, with the flamers.
Absolutely. And like when you let them know, like, yeah, you're gonna charge this and you're gonna take 4 heavy flamers and 2 hand flamers to the face.
7, because there's 3 heavy flamers on the Terminators.
Oh, there are. Yeah, look at that. Wow. So 7 heavy flamers and 2 hand flamers. You're letting them know, like, oh, I'll never charge that. Like a unit of witches going into that don't make it.
They
ever.
Don't. No.
Like
no.
100% of the time, you're gonna kill those 5 witches. Even if you roll 1s on every single one of those flamers for shots, you're gonna delete those poor witches. Poor witches. I still have never won against Drukhari with any of my armies.
Really?
So yeah. Then again, my buddy who plays them all the time stopped playing 2 GT packs ago, so I don't have a lot of practice either. But anyway, I digress. So you got this flamer unit. It comes down. It deletes something on turn 2. You're gonna save up your specialism extremist stratagem mostly for this team. And then, as we said, you then come down with up to 3 other melee kill teams next to that Chappie. And these are the ones I love to see, that the Deathwatch melee meta is switching so hard to heavy Thunderhammers, because that's a Deathwatch only like weapon. It's 4 damage. It's an extra AP. It's Thunderhammer on crack, and I'm glad to see that we're moving towards them. I think Fred Fortman right now is like rocking it. He's got a team that he took as many Vanguard vets as possible, because they're allowed to take heavy Thunderhammers. So he has something like 8 heavy Thunderhammers in his melee team, and then he has another normal Thunderhammer on the Sergeant and another normal one on the Black Shield.
That's a lot.
So he comes in with, I think maybe it's 6 heavy Thunderhammers. There's something where like the normal veterans can only take 1 per 5, but anyway, it's a team that just deletes stuff.
Yeah.
So I see you're like mixing it up with the heavy Thunderhammers and the Lightning Claws. Why'd you pick Lightning Claws?
Well, right now, I think we're in a hand-to-hand combat meta kind of right now. There's still some armies out there that shoot, but so many of the players in my particular area, like Death Guard players, if you got a power fist, they're just going to take that wound off. So it's like, okay, well, here's 21 of them. I'm going to auto wound you because I can choose, right? I can drop extremists on one of my hand-to-hand combat units instead.
Absolutely.
It's like, here, just pick something up. So I think Lightning Claws are in a really good place right now in the current meta, especially in my local meta. We have a lot of hand-to-hand armies that play, and it just plays better where I'm playing at right now. I like them. You almost don't even need the kill team strats with them as well, because you get full rerolls per wound with them. They're effective.
Yeah.
They do work.
Do you have a lot of martyred lady or salamander? Because I haven't played either of those factions yet, but it feels like for an army like ours, where almost everything we do revolves around rerolling wounds against whatever. That factions that turn that off, it's gonna feel really bad.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, my whole army auto wounds or rerolls once a wound on most things, and now I can't. That sucks. Has that been
Yes.
your experience with things like lightning claws or?
Not a lot of people have the ability to do that. It's increasing right now. That ability to turn off certain things is increasing. So, we'll see what happens. But Jordan Gledhill, who's a friend and a teammate in my local community, has been Best in Faction Sisters for quite some time. He's been exposed in a lot of different areas. He's even
Wow.
had Army List build on Warhammer as well in the Warhammer community. I mean, he's a well-known Sisters player, and because he has that influence, we now have 3 Sisters players in our local meta. I had 4, one switched over to Chaos Knights, but um, you just have to be prepared to swing with where your meta's at locally when you play most of the time.
I mean, martyred lady's good, but like bloody rose is still what I see everyone running. Because those bloody rose repentia are so good and they're so cheap now.
We'll start to complain on our team Discord chat, and everybody's like, "Talk to the hand. You don't have anything to complain about."
That must be nice to have that kind of like reputation. Like, shut up, Lou. All right,
No,
so oh
this is what we say to him because
oh
he'll
gotcha.
complain, right? He'll complain, and we're like, "We don't want to hear it, Jordan."
Yeah, like your army just got super buffed. Like
Yeah,
being able to take 2 of their secondaries too
yeah,
really made them. Yeah. All right, so you have 2 of those teams, if I'm reading this right. They're a little different only because of the fact that you had to take Dominatus on one and Aquila on the other. Is there any difference other than that?
just honestly, not really. I just know that I'm going to usually pop an extremis on one of those, and you need to do it on the Aquila team for the doctrine, the way it's written in the Army of Renown. And
Yeah,
I have a kill team, so all of my kill teams have a band around the base that I've painted on, so I know which one's which, right? And
good call. Yeah.
this is my yellow kill team. I call it my yellow kill team, and I just know that when that one's in a certain place, I can drop the extremis on it. So it just helps me to manage my army better. Really, is what it comes down to.
And then I see you have a Proteus team. We got some bikes in it, 2 Vanguard vets, and so this is a Venator team, so fast attack rerolls, and these guys are gonna be fast, right? Like we saw a lot of this. Do you combat squad this team?
It depends on the game that I'm playing. Most of the time, I end up combat squatting it because getting those 3 bikes and 2 Vang vests with the storm shields, they're super fast. You can get on objectives. You can kind of bait your opponent to move in a certain area because they know that they have to deal with them, and if they don't, you're going to score. And being T5 is such a game changer. It wouldn't seem like just that one extra point of toughness makes a difference, but it's huge.
Yeah,
And then the
absolutely.
other team, I usually just hold back and score, and then they can move up center objective. And so lately, I've been combat squatting them just about every game. But you don't have to. I mean, they can run together too.
Yeah. And you have a melta gun on the watch, Sergeant. Just a little extra. Was that just you had some extra points and you said screw it, or
Yeah,
is it because he's modeled with it, which I know is why the captain has an Inferno pistol.
um, yeah. So I think you just need a little more punch. I think I'm actually going to drop a storm shield in each of my units and bring 2 melta guns. I ran that list in a practice matchup the other day, and I think it's not sacrificing or compromising too much what these units are designed to do, but uh, it's been helpful in trying to chip away at some of the larger vehicles as well. So I'm kind of flirting with that idea right now.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
fair.
it's extra, just a little bit of extra. Oh, and by the way, before I come in and rush you with all these heavy thunder hammers, let's take 4 wounds off your night. Right?
Yeah, might as well. Then there's only 24 to go. uh, and then the last part of the, which I find fascinating, we have a Spectrus kill team. You took in cursors. Those obviously, like, this is the team that you're gonna do deployment shenanigans with. You're gonna put pressure right away. Like, the game hasn't even started yet, and you're putting mid-board pressure on there with the incursors and the infiltrators, and then you put Lord of the Seat on the infiltrator sergeant, so you
Correct.
can redeploy. And we talked about this with Daryl's cast like a month ago. He's in chat like right now. This just adds so much play you can do to really put that midboard pressure on. And I know that in the Nephilim pack, this is even more important than it's ever been, because there is one mission where if you don't hold an objective in no man's land, you don't even get a CP at the start of your turn. So this allows you to start the game on turn one. You still get that first CP, which can be huge, by go ahead and just plopping one of these guys down right on an objective.
Yeah, I think if you're going to run Army of Renown, I think this is a must take. I've been trying to build a list with hardly any or no Primaris. I just don't know how to do it and be competitive. So you have to have this kill team in there, and oftentimes I will just conga line them out from objective to objective, max 2 inches between them, and just shut down whatever. And
I
then
assume you're combat squatting and you're putting one infiltrator in with the incursors.
yeah, so it was just simply a point save, right? Incursors are a little bit less expensive, and it was just, I mix them up, and that way you can still get the Omni Scramblers out, so you got that 12-inch deny with
Yeah.
each of the units. I would love to put Reavers in there just because I think they're awesome, but you can't,
There's
you can't,
what?
you can't, you can't infiltrate them, right? So
Yeah, you actually lose the keyword if you
you
uh
do,
put them in there at all. Like, even
yeah,
even if you put in one Reaver, those teams can no longer forward deploy, which
yeah.
sucks.
And the intention was that with a lot of these kill teams that they would get some of their keywords back, but it didn't happen in the Codex in 9th edition. So you can't even put 5 Reavers in, which are also a really cheap save.
Mhm.
Combat them off. You still don't get their Reaver ability in the current Codex right now, and
Oh,
it was not intended to play like that. But yeah, kind of dumb. So, rules is written, and I've talked to judges about it. In fact, I've talked to a couple of judges that judge at the LVO that are friends of mine, and they're like, it's obvious to see what it was they were trying to do, but unfortunately, rules is written. Even with the way it's worded right now, you know, you
yeah.
can't do the terror troops thing. And I was doing that mistakenly in one of my practice matches, and we were reading through it. And it's like, no, that kind
Can't
of
do that.
sucks. They're so good. I think Reavers are. I've even thought about just trying to bring a Reaver team in somehow, but there's no way to do it without putting them in a kill team. So
Yeah, not in the Army of Renown. I was actually just gonna, like, this is actually a great transition. So, like, things I would like to see Deathwatch like change, right? And I'm not gonna make any big sweeping stuff here, but like being able to change what your base troop is for some of these kill teams, right? Like the Fortis kill team, if you could, bring well, I guess not the base troop, but like I'd like to see that you could bring suppressors and Fortis team. I'd like to see that you could bring Blade Guard in a Fortis team. I'd like to see that you could choose incursors to be your base troop from a Spectrus kill team or infiltrators. Things like that would be really, really helpful.
Yeah, it would, and they're obviously going to tax you so that you're not OP, which I get, but I feel like that if we're not going to contribute to a kill team specialism, you should be able to still bring the unit as it was intended to be played, right? So, okay, so
Yeah.
my Reavers aren't going to get a kill team specialism, but I'm still going to play them as Reavers, and I'm still going to be able to drop them down and take an objective away. In fact, I think his name's Joe Farm in our Discord channel the other day. I was lunch building off of. I mean, it was literally just, hey, I've got a lunch break. This guy's asking for some help. It wasn't him. It was another guy. I think his name's Hollow. Anyways, trying to help him build during lunch, and I put an assault intercessors unit with the Fortis kill team, and I'm like, combat squad them off, and you can, swing twice. And Joe Farm was like, no, I don't think you can. And then I put laughing emojis in, and I was cracking up at myself. I'm like, you idiot! No, you can't do that. You can't do that. I'm like, no, you're absolutely right. But it was just a quick lunch build, and so trying to.
Yeah.
I get a lot of that. Surprisingly, I'll get random people that I've never met just all of a sudden in the Discord channel or through Facebook. It's like, hey, can you help me? And I want to help build our community up, and so I'll try if I can. Can't always, but it was
Uh,
fun. Fun helping them list build.
Unfortunately, one of the bad parts about a live stream is that sometimes things pop up and you have to take a quick break. I will be right back, everybody. I'm going to
Okay.
put the stream into BRB mode, and I'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, I'm back. I'm really sorry about that, everybody. Bio break and some dog drama. So everything's good now, and we'll get right back into it. So yes, the things I believe we were talking about the things that we'd like to see Deathwatch get. You know, non-ridiculous stuff. Though I just actually had a thought. One of the interesting things about Deathwatch. And I'd like to remind everybody that please ask us questions. Like, that's why we're doing this live. It's definitely not to make me look good, because I just didn't. But anyway, one of the things that's interesting about balancing Deathwatch, at least the AOR, is because our whole army can be another chapter now.
Right.
Anytime a chapter gets a buff, like when Salamanders got that buff where you can't reroll wounds, we got that too. So, like, you know, you're by proxy, you're buffing Deathwatch every time a chapter gets a buff right now. How do you feel about that? Like, what do you want to see? I mean, other than rules clarifications over stuff like the teleport homer and reavers.
Yeah. I mean, that, the teleport homer was a silly thing, and for the guys that were doing it, shame on you. You shouldn't have, thrown models out there to screen your characters, whatever. But, um, you know, there's talk that Army of Renown is going to go away.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to.
Yeah, so if that happens, I would really like to see this Brotherhood of Veterans thing continue. I wouldn't even be opposed to, okay, you pay 2 CP and you can be Salamander's army wide for a turn. It's not been game breaking, I don't think. We don't get a lot of the extra stuff that a lot of the chapters get. We get certain core rules that they have,
Right.
which are fluffy. It's nice. It's helpful. If and it's a double-edged sword too, right? So if you decide to play another chapter that is not going to help you in a turn, it actually inhibits how you're going to play. That's an advantage for your opponent.
Right.
So all the more reason to really know, the different chapters. But um, uh, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing, I think, for rules writers to balance. And I've got a friend who doesn't work for Games Workshop, but he was a curriculum writer. We'll call them curriculum writers or rules writers, whatever.
Sure.
And he did it for 2 years, right? And I'm Dennis. How was that 2-year period? He's like, man, he said, writing curriculum for 2 years was the longest 10 years of my life. Because
Yeah.
you've got editors that have to clear text. You've got gamers that have to clear rules interactions, and I don't think people appreciate or realize what a good place we're in with Games Workshop right now. Do we get some things wrong? Sure. Are there some things that are rules as written versus rules as intended? Sure. But to write these massive books that we have that interact as well as they do right now is, in my opinion, nothing less than a miracle. It's pretty amazing, quite honestly.
I don't know how many people here are like Art of War subscribers, but they do like monthly meta breakdowns where they actually rank like every faction against each other. So S, A, B, C, right? And it's fascinating, and they've brought this up on the stream as well. But like, if you go back and you look at those videos through the months, like you see everything starts to coalesce.
Yeah.
Right. Like S kind of gets smaller or bigger, but then A gets like way longer, and then there are fewer and fewer B, C, and F tier armies. Which is incredible when you think about now obviously these guys are some of the best players in the world, so they are playing and thinking about this meta at a much higher level than I am, but when the best players in the world, which do have the ear of Games Workshop, we know that the winner of the LVO got to be like get a special place as an advisor to Games Workshop, like that was announced, that's official. So they have the ear of GW, and when you see that starts to squish, right, that's really cool. Like, so like, being an A- army as like Grey Knights, for instance, still means you're an A- army. If you're a really good player, you can do really well with that army. Same for Deathwatch, although I think one's a lot more complicated than the other. Psychic phase notwithstanding, but yeah. But so Daryl brought up a great point. So like once everybody is A tier, like let's say there's some miracle and all the rules are actually written, so every faction is A tier. Now you have to redo the whole ranking, right? Because now there's still gonna be like, okay, who has a 1% benefit over like another, and that's just how that's how gamers are. We're competitive, you know. I played World of Warcraft in a like progression rating guild, and we had, you know, characters respec and get all new gear for like a 2% raise in their damage, right? Because like it was the way to play the game. And so I see that now as well. So so Daryl brings up a great point.
Well, too, you know, for the last few years, we've been able to track data. You know, before it was my army sucks and your army's great, and that's why you're winning, and there wasn't any tangible data that you could back that statement up with. Now we have hard data with thousands of matches that have been played, and you know, barring a few minor exceptions, most armies are swinging between the 48 to 53 percentile win percentage, which is huge because
yeah.
that means the game's balanced, and that's where we want the game. You know, I would be willing to bet that you could give an F tier army to a world class player, and 8 or 9 times out of 10, they're still going to waffle stomp you with it
Oh yeah.
because they know how to play the game, right? So this whole argument of, well, my army's terrible and your army's great is negligible now. You know, we have a couple of armies that have crazy stupid secondaries, but even with Necrons, I think if you were to curtail back or skirt back even just some of their secondaries in the current game grand tournament packet that we're using, I'll bet you that you would see them drop back down
Yeah.
again to probably an A minus tier, maybe a B plus tier.
And
So
subsequently too, like if you over nerf those secondaries, suddenly they're an F tier army.
right,
Because they
right,
don't have the easy secondaries that the other, or the easier ones that the other armies have, right? So,
right.
you know, like that, you know, balance is really tough. And Innovade brought up, he's like, it's like running a D&D campaign, but worse because it's a war game. Because running a D&D group, if there's a rule you don't like, you all just agree to fuck it, we're not going to follow that rule, or we're going to follow it but we're going to change it this way. And you can do that with your homebrew friends in your garage, that's fine. But like if you go to a tournament, you are agreeing to play to these rules, and so you need to follow them to the letter. And so you can end up over nerfing like a really good faction really easily.
Well, and you know, we're guys that play the game and we love to play the game at a competitive level. Keep in mind too, Games Workshop first and foremost is a model company.
Yeah.
So, and this is, you know, way out there in left field, but it wouldn't surprise me for the warehouse guy to show up and say, "Hey, Mike, we got a bunch of Necrons we got to upload, man. We got to clear some space out. All right, let's tweak the secondaries so they're really good and people will buy the models, and then we can fix it again, and, you know, with the next GT pack." I mean, that's an extreme example, but you know, it's not off the charts improbable. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
So just remember that they're trying to push models, okay?
I mean, sure, but like, I mean, Space Marines are by far their best selling range, right? Like, just hands down. I think, I mean, we even see in the competitive, right? I think if you go to 40K stats and you look at it, like, Space Marines are 22 or 24% of the meta. And this is a meta where Space Marines aren't even technically good right now, and there's still there are still almost a quarter of the people playing. So, and it's because like it's so iconic, right? If you think of Warhammer 40K, the first thing you think of is a Space Marine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, because the marketing.
If I was a 12-year-old kid walking into a game store and I saw an 8-foot size poster of a Space Marine, I would be drooling all over myself.
Yeah.
What is that? Where do I? Is this a game? Where do I get it? You know. So they're not dumb. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean they have record profits, right? They're now they're now valued over $1 billion. They're doing well, I would say.
Not bad
Um,
for the scrums who are driving around in a van selling games clear back in the 70s, right?
I mean, yeah, same thing with, there's some other stories of some very successful companies that started out in the same way, selling shoes out of a van.
Yeah.
Uh, oh man. So any other tweaks you'd like to see made to Deathwatch? I don't want to see the Army of Renown go. I know that I guess wow, I am changing topics really, really fast. I'm sorry. Let's go with the first one first. Anything else you'd like to see Deathwatch?
You I feel like for the most part, we're in a pretty good place. I would love to see the Army of Renown stick around. I think it's fluffy. I think it's fun. I've really enjoyed playing it. Thinking about the possibility of going back to playing without it, the only thing I honestly probably would really miss is the army-wide ability to play any chapter. Now you can
Yeah,
still do it with the Hood of Veterans on a squad, and I could make that work, but I just really like how that feels fluff-wise.
I do too. Yeah.
I'd be okay with the extremist strat going away. It's pretty potent. It's There's a reason why it's 3 CP.
Oh, yeah. I
Uh,
mean,
I mean, with
yeah.
Codex, so I'll say this: Codex Warfare. I've scored the heavy portion of it when I drop that one squad with the heavy flamers. I've maxed that one out every time I drop it down. I delete 3 units. When you max out at 5 points, and it's 2 points per unit that you kill with the heavy, so I max it out. I drop that unit down. I delete 3 units every time.
Hmm. I don't know. Codex Warfare as a secondary requires way too much of my brain power when I'm already facilitating so much to like my command phase. Which doctrine am I gonna be in? What chapter am I gonna be? Who
Yeah.
gets my chaplain buffs? Who gets my watchmaster buffs? Like, where's the chaplain gonna be? How am I gonna drop them in and like charge this thing? I'm already thinking about too much stuff. I don't need to like throw on, okay, now for a secondary I have to be in this doctrine and which army's gonna like I have ADD, man. I mean, you can probably
You
tell by this conversation.
got to get your reps in for sure. But back to your original question, I don't know that I would change a whole lot. I would. I mean, there's some things that I miss, like the frag cannon thing that we talked about. But honestly, it was OP. I think it's better. The only thing maybe with that is I'd still like to see it auto wound because I think from a theoretical standpoint, the fragmentation from grenades going off is you don't need to aim and shoot somebody. It's not a bullet you're shooting, right? This is
Yeah. You're aiming at the ground
yeah,
near your enemy. Yeah.
yeah. But outside of that, I'm pretty good with where we're at for the most part.
All right, I'm gonna ask you the big question. I think this is why a lot of people tuned in. Uh, Lou, Daryl wants to know what insights can you give about what might be coming down the pipe for Deathwatch. You knew you were gonna get this question, and I think I know how you're going to answer, but I gotta ask it anyway.
Um, all I can really say is just stay tuned. Uh, the game's going to change again. We've got 10th edition going to be dropping here soon. One thing I can say is that Games Workshop has changed how they do business a little bit. So anybody that was a beta tester within the last few months has been dropped
Mm-hmm.
from contributing to where the codex is at and where the releases are coming out. But that being said, uh, there's people that are involved in the rules writing process. There's judges that are, like there's this, for lack of better words, the what do we call them with the dark angels? The inner circle.
Yeah,
There's that inner circle
inner
of rules
circle.
right? And so uh,
I now
everybody,
now I imagine them like meeting in a dark room with robes on and like right over there. Like,
but my point is that anybody that is at that level of the game, and part of it's just longevity, they will reach out if there's a question or an issue or a concern that's like legitimately going to be an issue. They're going to reach out and they're going to say, "Hey, we're concerned about this. What are your thoughts?" But um, it's been kind of cricket for quite a while, so that means that they're pretty comfortable with where things are at. Uh, Stay tuned. Yeah, just stay tuned. I think we're going to be in even a better place with 10th. I hope.
Hmm.
Uh, there, there's talk that they're going to be resetting things, so they
Yep.
feel like they need to. So that's not a bad thing. I will say that having played from second edition, I took fifth off to where we are now. We are in such a good place. I can't even tell you how good the 40K community is right now, and the fact that I'm even talking to somebody about an army that I love playing on stream where other people can glean off of the conversation is huge. We didn't have this 15 years
Oh
ago,
yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
We didn't have it.
I
So it's
mean,
just awesome.
there were entire editions where armies didn't get books. Like, didn't Drukari go without a book from like fifth to eighth or something? It was insane. Like, that seems bonkers to me that they would
So
do
think
that.
think about this. Sisters of Battle is considered an S tier army right now, right?
Yeah.
They did not get models for third edition, fourth edition, fifth edition, sixth edition, seventh edition, started getting models in eighth edition and got a new codex finally in eighth edition. I think they
They
got a new one in fifth.
so wow. So Drukari Daryl saying didn't have a book from third to sixth, so 12
Correct.
years with the same
Yep.
book.
Yep.
At least you're saving money on books. I mean, too bad you can't play your army. Like,
Yeah.
woo.
It's just, I mean, for the guys that are just getting into it like yourself now, there were decades where it was rough.
Yeah. And like,
Great.
the internet also means that folks can talk and more brains are involved and math is done. Kind of like you said, um, I've got access to the best or the best in faction tableau. Uh, or I'll throw it here into chat. But so what they do is they call it 40K Fight Club, and this is a data scientist who put this all together. And you can click on this and switch like what meta it is based on what like GT book is out. You can see like what faction's winning, what sub faction of that faction is winning. How does that faction compare to this other faction? Like, are they blowing one faction out of the water and they're like struggling into like everything else? And the amount of data available. And
Yeah,
if
it's
we
crazy.
have this data, Games Workshop does too. And, as you said, they're a model company, so they're going to make different decisions than we are, sometimes. But the amount of data is insane. Like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, this wasn't a thing. Like this
No,
level of like granularity into the data wasn't a thing. I
no.
think, and again, I've only been playing for like 2 years, but we know that uh, kind of the way I think I've been told by others, like what's that forum? Bolter and Chainsword? Is that a for? Was that or no? Daka Daka. I
Hmm.
think the first big online community for this game was Daka Daka, the forums. Because if you look up like painting tutorials or, you know, articles and stuff, sometimes that they still pop up and they're like, 2012, 2005, threads from, you know, 17 years ago, which the fact that 2005 was 17 years ago makes me want to go curl up into a ball and cry, but here we are. Uh, it's amazing, and I think, and then also a lot of work that's being done, like Games Workshop hiring Brant.
Yeah.
Uh, he is an incredible guy, and I think he's really pushing them. There was a rumor that he pushed really, really, really hard to get these every 90-day auto balance sheets, like, and you can see it. Like that is every 90 days. That is changing the game, and it's really helping tweak things. You know.
Mike is a really smart guy. I visited with him a few times for a few different reasons, and that's a whole nother discussion for another day. But he really is trying to make sure that the community has more voice, more representation. And I think you brought up one excellent point that we're seeing how that translates into the game state right now. So speaking of, do we want to quickly roll through the games that the?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. Yeah. We'll
No,
talk. We'll talk about your games. Let me get my notes up real quick. So, you actually had as a Deathwatch player, you had an amazing list of factions to play.
it was awesome.
So you played against Nids, then Aeldari, then Chaos Space Marines, then Nids, then Quins, then Tau. So out of your 6 games, 5 of them were filthy Xenos.
Which is
nice.
because usually when I go to a tournament, I get a lot of Space Marines or Custodes or whatever. So the fact that I got to play Xenos was amazing. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, let's start with your first game. It was against round 1. You got hit hard. So this player ended up winning or going to 10th place with his Nids. It was a 29-89 loss for you. But go ahead and tell us about the game. How'd it go?
So first, I want to talk about my opponent. So Ken Wonyabear is his name, and Ken and I are friends. That we met at the BAO like 4 years ago. Back then, I just waffle stomped him with the list that I had, and so turnaround's fair play, right? You know, it was. But he is above and beyond anything else. He is a premier human being. He's such an incredible person, and I love Ken to death. And so I did a quick breakdown of rankings before the tournament. I shared that with you, and Ken was already ranked really high in the ITC, and part of that is because he's playing Nids. Nids is just doing really well right now.
Yeah.
And I knew I was going to kind of be on my heels going into it, but then, you know, I've played on stream a few times now, and I know that there's probably going to be more games down the road as well. But when you play on stream, it's like your brain explodes and leaks out your ear. There's other things that you're having to pay attention to, and nobody could see this on stream, but Ken was like stressing out big time. And if you watch the game and you're listening, you'll hear me talking about, oh, you know, when you play on stream, it's like, let's just pretend like it's just you and I and people aren't watching. I was trying to calm him down because he was freaking out a little bit. And I wanted to have a good game with him. I knew that he was going to have a big mortal wound output in that particular matchup. So I went Black Templars.
Black Templars.
Warded is another secondary that you can take. You don't get the reroll to advance and charge, but you still get the 5-up film of chain. Yeah. And so, you know, having him going first, I think, was huge. But folks, my apologies to the Deathwatch community at large, because I got into his Hive Tyrant. I was able to avoid most of his 4 mines, pop the Extremist strat, and I'm like, I'm going to drop this dude, and then just totally forgot that I had my Lightning Claws left and my Chainsword left. Probably would have deleted his Hive Tyrant, but I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the game. I think
you got so excited to just swing those heavy Thunderhammers.
He's going down, bro, and
yeah,
then
buddy.
just forgot, you know. And that it's gonna happen, right? It's gonna happen. You're gonna make mistakes, and I've thought about that a lot. I knew going into that game that if I beat Ken, it was going to put me on a different track to the final game.
Yeah.
Every player that was there, Colin K, Scott Rumpel,
man, it was a pretty heavy list. Colin K was there, Evan Stump,
Matt Evans,
Lee Harris, Marshall Peterson.
Yeah, Marshall's another one. Yeah, I played against all these.
Yeah. So put this into perspective, just real quick, like Marshall is currently in the ITC rated 12th, just
overall
in the world overall. Marshall's rated 12th. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 people rated from the 307th best player in the world up to the 12th. And that's a third or maybe a quarter of the competitors. So a quarter of the competitors are some of the best players in the world.
Right, and have consistently ranked high at the LVO as well. And so I've wondered if subconsciously, and I'm being serious here. I'm not trying to be funny. I really wonder if subconsciously I didn't hamstring myself, knowing that if I beat Ken, I might end up playing in that final top 8 round on Sunday. And I honestly, against most of those guys, just being completely honest, they're better players than I am.
Yeah.
Scott's a teammate of mine. He would have curb stomped me if we would have played, because Space Wolves are great at counter hand-to-hand combat. It's like, oh, you're going to charge my wolfen? Cool. I'm going to hit you back. In fact,
Yeah. Fight on death,
uh,
baby.
he played Evan Stump in the semifinal round, and one Wolfguard, or not Wolfguard, Wolfen deleted an entire Guardian squad on Fight on Death.
Was it?
7 Guardians. Yeah, gone.
What was Evan playing that? What's a Guardian?
Blood,
Oh.
the Sanguinary Guard.
Oh,
Sorry.
Sanguinary Guard. Okay, sorry. I was like Guardians. I was like, was he playing? Was he playing Imperial Guard? And he got to the semifinals. Let's talk about that.
It's so important going into these matches that you clear your brain and you really just focus on game per game, turn per turn, focusing on playing your army and not thinking about all this other stuff. I do that all the time,
Yeah.
and I hamper myself sometimes. So, but I'm not trying to take anything away from Ken either. Ken is a phenomenal player, and he just flat out played me turn 1 or game 1. So,
Yeah.
hey, and he did great. Awesome guy, fun game. Loved playing against him on stream. Just felt bad that I dropped the ball there for all of my Deathwatch brothers. Sorry, it's going to happen sometimes. So it is what it is.
It sounds like for one moment there, Lou, you were human.
More often than not, my wife will tell you that.
So. Yeah. Mine would tell you the same about me. So any other really memorable moments about round 1? What secondaries were you thinking about while my headspace is there? So
bad choices. I mean, I was really concerned about his mortal wound output. I really shouldn't have given more credence to it than I did, and I took raised banners, which for this army is usually not a good choice. But I was trying to stay out of the center because there wasn't an objective in the center to score on, and so I took engage, which right now is just not very good, and I took raised banners, and so those just didn't offer the scoring opportunities that they needed to. I should have taken probably shock tactics, and Codex Warfare would have been a better choice, honestly, with what I took. So.
Oh, from what you took, okay.
Purge the 8
yeah.
Purge the 8 would have been the best option.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you gotta kill aliens anyway. You might as well get points for it.
Yep.
All right, well, round 2 was against Aeldari, Hail of Doom, which we all know is a lot of the meta right now. How do you deal with that much AP? Like even with AOC, which helps curb it a little bit, like you're gonna take a lot of -3 AP shots.
Yeah, you've just got to play very conservatively, right? And again, picking the right secondaries is key. I nailed down my secondaries for that particular game, but just it's like if you don't have anything to shoot, you can't do damage, right? So for that particular game, I deployed that Spectre's kill team like we talked about out front, and then I pulled both of them off the table. And I pulled all 3 of those kill teams off the table. So now it's like, where'd your army go? Right? And then he wanted to come in and get close, and it's like, cool. Keep in mind, and I did tell him this, I'm like, I've got 5 units coming back down potentially this next turn, plus my captain was in deep strike reserve. And I think it flustered him a little bit, and so it kind of forced him to play more conservative.
Man. Okay, so let's think about this just for one moment. You deploy your whole army, except your captain.
Right.
So he's like, haha, I think I know what he's gonna do. And then you pull up everything that's not the 5-man Primaris team or the chaplain.
The chaplain or that squad that has the bikes, the 3 bikes. And
okay.
So Yeah. So I
So you go from having all of those models on the table to having like
almost
9
nothing.
models. Just pick them up. That's got to
So
be real frustrating. Yeah. Now
now
what's he doing?
he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, if I go, and he was literally like, well, if I go here, then you're gonna drop in back here. But if I overcommit over here, then you're gonna drop in back here. And it really discombobulated him.
That feels
And
good.
so yeah, I've
That feels
actually
good, man. Seriously.
I had a player in a tournament once, and we were on a clock, and he was pacing back and forth. And he's actually a teammate now, super nice guy. But he burned up 5 minutes on the clock, and he finally turned to me and he's like, I don't know what to do. The threat overload is stupid. And it was kind of what happened with this guy. And so he ended up not playing like an Aeldari unit normally would play. And so I was able to drop teams down like I needed to in strategic places and really have some good board control, which is unusual against that type of an army.
Yeah. So he was being really conservative when usually Aeldari wants to kind of spread out, be really fast, like fly over ruins and get lots of like shots out. But then, so I assume you went first.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So, like your movement phase was basically just like yoink.
Yeah, my turn one was super fast. I don't even think I scored anything. I just pulled these units off the table. I'm like, hey, I'm going to play Raven Guard. Here's the reason why. These are the rules interactions, and I've got little game aids that I put on the table that describe what's going on. So
Me too, man. Most of it's so that I don't lose sight of what's going on.
It's really for me as well. And it was like, hey, passing the clock, turn one. There you go. No points scored. And it was just like, what? What just happened? You know.
So you just had a movement phase that was grabbing your stuff. Mm-hmm. Maybe you like moved your chaplain up behind the middle ruin or whatever, and then you're like, okay. No psychic, no shooting, no charging. No morale. I'm done. There you go. Here's like 30-second turn.
Yeah, I think I moved my chaplain like a half an inch behind cover a little bit better.
Nice.
That was about it.
Beautiful.
And then it was just dropping down and really playing to the mission, right? And Aeldari are glass cannons too. So when that unit dropped down with all those flamers and shots and everything, I can't even remember how much stuff I deleted. Like, I'm going to put 2 heavy flamers over here, and I'm going to put 2 heavy flamers over here. And oh, you're T3, right? So these hand flamers are going to,
actually wound on 4s.
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, you probably used Specialism Extremis, but
I didn't actually with that unit. They had enough, statistically, they had enough boom that I didn't need to worry about it.
I mean, firing Strength 5 flamers into T3 anything feels good anyway. Like, so.
Way to die.
Was his list like, it's Hail of Doom, so he's basically just bringing as many shuriken cannons as he possibly can, right?
Yeah.
Shuriken?
Shuriken.
Shuriken.
How do you say it?
Got it.
Yeah.
We got there. Yeah. That's just, fair. That's fair.
It was just move and use cover to my advantage, and then when I got close enough to charge in, with one of the units, in fact, the one unit with the heavy flamers and the power fist and one of my other heavy kill teams, I was close enough to mechanicals that I was able to get in and delete a lot of stuff as well. And then I dropped the other one behind where he left a gap in his back corner. I got that unit in and came in for me. So it kind of did a pincer move or a hammer anvil move, and I think it overwhelmed him. I don't think he was expecting that kind of a play, but it was fun. It was a good game. Great guy. Great guy.
If you go over to the One Last Blade channel, I did a bat rep on there. He plays Grey Knights. I brought my Deathwatch, and I tried to bring a list that would like just showed off a whole bunch of the like crazy stuff that we can do. So I brought frag cannons and Infernus heavy bolters and cyclone missile launchers and like really like varied kill teams and stuff. And he was not like flustered, upset, but like he was laughing because he's like, this is like playing against Aeldari. I hate this. He's like, You guys can't advance in charge. You guys can ignore my mortal wounds. You guys get exploding sixes from your bolters. Like, what is going on here? You guys can fall back in charge. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell? I'm like, yep. Welcome to Deathwatch.
Well, we've talked about this and we still talk about it. There's so many tools in your toolbox to use. It's just a matter of matching up those tools with your style of play and your current meta and really getting, drilling down into how to play the army. And that just takes reps, but it's so fun. It's so fun. And
Yeah.
when you start to get a broad sweep of knowledge about how the Deathwatch work, then that gives you, more tools that you have access to that maybe in those one-off circumstances that you normally wouldn't use it. Like one of the Chaos players, I think they ended up with, uh, I was doing the math in my head, and I was like, well, I think in this particular case, I need to drop the melta bomb, right, to finish him off.
Mm-hmm.
And so I paid for the strat, and it's exactly what I needed. There was one
Yeah.
wound left. Like, well, I declared I was going to use this, so here you go. And I rolled a 1, but that's all I needed.
That's all you needed. That's called efficiency, man. No more, no less. Exactly
So,
what you need.
normally I wouldn't play that, and I wouldn't play that normally with how hampered we are with CP right now. But I knew I was going to need it in that clutch situation,
Yeah.
and it came through. So
Cool. Well, your third mission was against new CSM. And this is your only non-Xenos match the whole tournament. It looks like you went ahead and pulled off another win here. This was against Emperor's Children, 82-48. Take it away.
yeah. Well, this is where those heavy thunder hammers came into play. This was literally one of those deals where I'm going to pull up 2 units. I kept 1 unit down on the ground, and I just was very cautious about how I fed units to them. But the damage output from a Chaos Space Marine player who isn't familiar with the Deathwatch, and I always ask people, have you ever played against Deathwatch before we begin? Okay, let me help you understand a few things. I hate
Here's my
gotcha
15-minute spiel of how the army works, where their eyes
yeah.
just glaze over.
And I've got maids too that I hand them. I'm like, hey, here's these rules set right here. So I've got a sheet with the kill teams, and I'll circle them, and here's the page numbers where the rule is. But I don't spend a ton of time on it. Right here it is what you need to know if you have questions asked. But really probably unprepared for the damage output from the hand-to-hand combat kill teams and the heavy thunder hammers.
I mean, heavy thunder hammers in tactical are -4. So right, yeah. Sorry. I knew what I meant. I didn't say it. Which I should probably do on a stream. Should probably be accurate. But yes. Assault doctrine.
That's a lot. So armor of contempt doesn't mean anything in a negative AP4 world, right? It doesn't matter. And so it was just picking up units, and I think he picked a couple of secondaries that when he said, I'm going to do this, I'm like, cool, because mine are countering what you're doing. And so unless your damage output is going to exceed mine, which I didn't think it would, mathematically it didn't make sense. I just knew I was going to outscore him. Great player, though. Great player.
This was Andy Butler. I'm pulling up his list right now just because I'm curious. So Demon Prince, Master of Possession, Lucius the Eternal, a lot of Terminators. It looks like a 10-man brick. Noise Marines, of course. How are those in the new book?
For most players, probably a big deal. Unfortunately for him, my kill team with the heavy flamers, I had sitting center back. He got the alpha strike. He moved him in, charged my speed bump unit up front, which I expected that he probably would. So I redeployed one of those Spectres kill teams up there, and he deleted them, which I knew he would. And then it was like, cool, here's 42 heavy flamer attacks, auto wounding. Here's these heavy bolters, auto wounding. Here's, and I think he had 2 Terminators left. And so I just charged in those power, finished them off. And so, everybody talks about how beefy Terminators are for Chaos, and I expect statistically that they probably are. It's just that we don't care as Deathwatch players. We just have the tool with them.
That's a 405 point unit that cost him a CP to even put on the table. I mean, to just delete that. Was that turn like 2 that you just wiped it out?
it was his turn one because no, it was turn
Oh,
two.
yeah.
Two
Okay.
because he charged in and he went first in the game, so he charged in. Uh, yeah. Anyways, so he charged that Spectrus unit, wiped him off, got in position for my heavy flamer. I even asked him, I'm like, "Are you sure you want these Terminators right there?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Remember, I did talk about this heavy flamer unit, and I did talk about the extremist strategy." He's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure I want them right there." And so I just,
Yeah.
on
So
my turn, deleted them. Yeah.
yeah, so that's another thing that I want to bring up just really quick, like being a good opponent, right? Like, you're like, hey, I can do this. I've lost games because like I've reminded folks that I can do things, you know,
I have to. Yeah,
because
I
it's
have to.
like I'd rather have a good game than, even though I told them earlier, like, so it's technically not gotcha hammer. Like I'm brain dead too, especially like game 6 of the LVO. Like I was only half there, man. I was so tired, so beat, like so hungover from the previous night. I was just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I forgot a psychic phase in my as Grey Knights, and my opponent's like, you want to finish this unit's shooting and then maybe go back and do your psychic phase. I'm like, oh, thanks, dude, because I was like, so
Yeah, well,
yeah. So my point is, it's nice to, you know,
it,
remind
we're,
people.
we're we're there to forge a narrative. We're there to have a story with each other, and so we're trying to make that happen. Right? I'm not playing against you. I'm playing with you in an interactive game, and
That's a
so
huh.
it's so important to make sure that we're having good interaction with each other. We never want anybody walking away, especially this next generation coming up. We don't want them not coming back to the table because who are going to roll dice against? Who are my boys going to roll dice against if players aren't playing right?
Yeah.
And I think having those kind of interactions is just bad in general. It's just bad sportsmanship, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really like that. Playing with you, not playing against you. That's awesome. That's a really good, like, that's a good place to be mentally, right? Like, it's supposed to be fun. Not You're not supposed to bang your head on the table or get frustrated and red in the face.
That's going to happen anyways with dice and everything else, right?
Well,
We
yeah,
don't need to.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, we've all rolled hot. We've all rolled cold.
yeah,
So,
for sure.
um, so this was a. Is this? No, this isn't one of the Warp Town Obliterators. Neat. So, all right. Any other things that pop out for this game for your third round? Um,
Uh, Obliterators don't do well against heavy thunder hammers.
that's good to know because I have a friend who plays Iron Warriors all the time, and he loves his obliterators. So,
Yeah.
and then the next day, so day 2, you went into Nids again. This time Leviathan, which I think you played a different um, Hive Fleet earlier, but
Yeah, super great guy. He actually is in our local community. Really, really nice guy. His lady was there as well, supporting him, which is awesome. That's a very healthy place to be. Um, and just as a side note, guys, hiding this hobby from your girlfriend or trying to hide this hobby from your wife is never a good move. If she can't, accept you for who you are, uh, then that relationship probably isn't going to make it. And my wife, God love her, will send me memes and stuff while I'm playing. Unfortunately, because she doesn't know factions, I'll get a Chaos Space Marine chanting me on every now and
yeah.
again, but it's about intent. So, anyways, great guy. I think he's just new to the tournament scene. In fact, I think I remember him mentioning this was his first tournament. And so trying to be extra kind to him when he threw his harpy down next to that unit with the heavy flamers, I'm like, remember I talked about I've got these flamers and I've got this extremist strat. Are you sure you want that harpy there? And he's like, I'm pretty sure. But I don't think he was really tracking what I was talking about. And so again, I tried to let him know, but that got deleted on my turn one. I did not teleport that unit out, obviously, because I had a juicy target right there. And I think after that moment, he was playing hyper conservatively, where Tyranids usually want to be aggressive
Mm-hmm.
in the way they play, and it just wasn't working for him. I think that scared him off. And then I had these other two teams coming down with these heavy thunder hammers, and it was like, crap, what am I going to do? And it was one of those. And so I think if we were to play again and we were to get more comfortable with the army, he would perform better. But it was a new tournament for him, honestly.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like I'm a almost 40-year-old man, and I consider myself very outgoing and like really interested in like being a little uncomfortable, trying new things. And my first tournament was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Most not because like I was afraid I was gonna play badly, but because I was just like, all right, I show up. Who do I talk to? Where do I put my stuff? Can I put my stuff on my table? Where do I go for like play like the roster? I don't know any of these people yet. Now I know more of my local scene, and so it's like I show up and it's just going to the bar without beer yet. But like, it's like, oh, I know these people now, and it's not a big deal, and it's like calm. And I mean, there's still that rush where you have to get to your next game. Like you've only got 15 minutes to go like grab some water and pee or like whatever. But now it's a lot more like once you get into that flow, it's like, okay, now I know what to expect. But the first time is like,
it's rough. It is. And so, again, trying to be conscientious of that and trying to be kind to him and help him out. Like I'm like, hey, it's in your movement turn. I'm gonna go get a drink. Do you want something? Can I get a drink for you?
absolutely,
If you get done moving before I get back, start clocking on me. I trust you. Just really trying to put him at ease. I think hopefully help.
And there is no way there's this many people in chat and you guys don't have questions. Like I see you. I see all of you. Like, hopefully I have Lou on more regularly, but like don't miss your opportunity here. But yes, I think that's amazing. Like that's always what I do, and I expect it in return. I actually casted all 3 games of an RTT last weekend, and on the top table where these guys were like, I could see them sweating, like they were talking about how like like they're like, oh my gosh, this is so like high stakes. They were still like, hey man, I'm gonna go pee and grab some water. Do you want anything? Like they were still being super cool even though they were on the top table. And I know that's not LVO or Adepticon like levels of top table, but these are players who they take their competitive game seriously, but they were still human about it. And sure. I thought that was really cool. And I think the TO ended up actually grabbing them some stuff, but it's still nice that they offered, right? Like again, you're here to have an enjoyable time. Like you should make it enjoyable for your opponent as well.
Well, any day not working and rolling dice is a good day. So I don't need stress from work. Right? So I'm going to try and be as good as I can for the person I'm playing against because I want them to come back again.
Absolutely. Sindri wants to know, what do you still think about the Xenophase blade? Is it still like, I know there was a time there where like Jump Pack Captain with Mastercrafted Xenophase blade was like the go-to. What do you think about that now?
I've got one sitting right here on my hobby table that I haven't finished yet. I mean, he's right there.
Oh, very cool.
I was actually contemplating about putting Xenophase blades back into my list on the sergeants because I love them. The only reason, honestly, why I haven't is because I'll forget that I have them. So it's about just
you're speaking my language now.
Streamlining my units. So I know I've got a heavy thunder hammer on the sergeant and one on each of my Vanguard vets. I'm down with that. But having to think about one extra attack with an extra weapon is just it's brain overload for me almost. So that's really honestly the only reason why they're not in my units. Otherwise I'd have them, to be honest with you.
Well, there you go. I mean, they're expensive. 10 points.
They are.
And one damage isn't good, but one damage that goes through because it ignores a invul is pretty nice.
It is, and one of the ways that I was running it for a little bit is I'd put the Warlord trait on that one sergeant and give him a Mastercrafted weapon with the Warlord trait, and then his phase blade did 2 damage, and so he'd pick up a 5-man unit a lot of times because of that. But
in Assault Doctrine, that thing is -5.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's dumb. So, for points efficiency, for mental efficiency, right? That's another thing that we need to think about is how is my army interacting speed wise with the clock? Am I able to track everything? Am I doing too much?
Yeah.
There's that. So it's
Yeah.
just a matter of being efficient. That's all.
Well, there you go. That answers that question. So let's drop down to your round 5. Right. Oh, is there anything else that really stood out about your game 4 there against the Nids?
No, just I felt privileged to kind of give this guy an inaugural event game. Such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Really hope he's playing. Just super cool dude. Would
Yeah.
love to play him.
Yeah, that actually reminded me. So at the tournament, my last one that I went to playing Deathwatch, I was asked like, "Hey, do you mind playing a new player?" And I'm like, "Not at all."
No,
I don't even care if we make it only to the bottom of turn 2 or whatever. Like, I am totally happy to play with a new player. Like, give them to me.
yeah. Well, I didn't even know he was new
Mhm.
until he told me at the end of the game, and that's when he told me that this was his first tournament, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? I would have loved to have played at the level that you played in my first tournament game. If you wouldn't have told me, I would have thought you were a veteran player." His name was
Wow.
Tim. Uh, just just a stand-up guy and just a really really good player. And I'm like, if you keep
Yeah.
playing, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with because you're good. You
Uh,
know your arm. So
So I did the other thing that you just mentioned. So my first tournament ever, right? I'm already kind of like flustered and confused, like how does this work? And I told all of my opponents straight up, like, this is my first tournament ever. And they're all like, oh, that's awesome. And they were like helping me with deployment. They're like, are you sure you want to move there? I can do this thing. Like, have you thought about maybe trying this instead because XYZ? And I was just like, holy crap, like this, like now everybody's teaching me.
yeah,
It's not about like they know I'm not gonna top table, and some of these are really good players, but like they were so nice. I cannot recommend like a local RTT enough for anybody. Don't
yeah.
it's
Most of our
yeah,
community now,
it's
just
so
we're in
nice.
such a good place. We've almost, like I said at the beginning of this, this whole exchange, that we've just about run the bad actors out of the community. Now they're just so few and far between. Now you almost really
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it anymore. And
Still have
people
to
want,
stay vigilant.
yeah, we do, but
Yeah.
by and large, I mean, 73 competitive games in the last 18 months, and I can count one guy that I just didn't have a positive interaction with. And even then, I
But
think
not
it
a
was
negative one, right? Just not
yeah,
positive. Yeah.
yeah, they were just very positive games. Just had one that was kind of negative, and I called him out on it, and he adjusted his behavior, so it was fine.
Oh, cool. That
I
must be
dabbed
that
him.
that like dad thing where you just like, as you're getting older, for those young whippersnappers like listening, your ability to handle bullshit, like especially in your hobbies, really starts to tank.
Yeah,
And
it's
like
tough.
I'd rather just call someone out or like, you don't do it aggressively, but be like, "Hey man, did you not sleep well or like you seem really flustered? How can I help you?" Right? Like calling them out that way can really help. And sometimes maybe they just got some bad news on the phone or something. Like you don't know what they're going through. So,
So yeah, you
yeah.
always default positive. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Shazzy is asking, how do you? Oh, well, we're gonna get to this. So he plays Tau in his final round. So we'll get into how he plays against Tau specifically. But he's also asking, how do you use Outriders, or do you even use Outriders?
I don't use Outriders. I'm kind of I like the way Primaris look, but
Yeah,
I've got a chip on my shoulder with how Games Workshop brought Primaris into the meta. So I try really hard to not use Primaris if I can avoid it. But just honestly, Outriders are not as efficient point wise as regular bikers are in a Deathwatch army. Just straight up plain and simple. They're just not. It's just not worth the points. So I don't run them. I don't play them. I don't have them in my army. I don't even have an Outrider model.
wow. Yeah, I actually just traded out all of mine. I think I kept 3 just because I like the way that they look, but I think I traded them all for more Green Knights. uh,
Again,
uh,
I love the way Primaris look, and I've been
yeah.
thinking about re-kitting out my army with Primaris models, but playing them as
Oh,
this.
Firstborn. Huh. I just want to go like one of the benefits of having a 3D printer, is like you can just 3D print out a bunch of assault Primaris assault intercessor legs. And if you stick that on all of your
Yeah,
firstborn, suddenly they look a lot better next to your Primaris. Like they're not squat anymore. They're like, tall and so that's a huge like or if you go and on a bits site and just buy up all the legs, right? Like that can really, really help make them look more dignified standing next to their Primaris brethren. Uh
well, and to be fair, the Deathwatch veteran box set was the first attempt at GW to make Space Marines properly scaled. So the Deathwatch Marines are a little bit taller, a little bit bigger
yeah.
than the regular, what we call Primaris or squat Firstborn Marines.
Yeah.
And so they look better anyways, but yeah,
No,
we'll see.
it's true. I know Stefan from One Last Blade, all of his Grey Knights that aren't Terminators are actually on Deathwatch legs for the same reason. It just makes them that like little bit taller and look more natural next to like their Terminator friends and stuff.
Right.
So now Shazzy's asking about the T Suns matchup. Um, and I'm just going to go out on a limb real quick and say that if I were playing against them as Deathwatch, you're going to want Warded, you're going to want Black Templars, and then you're going to want to get in there because with the heavy Thunderhammers at neg 4, even with their, they can't reduce or they can't increase their armor save because they're over 1 damage. You're gonna punk a Terminator with every single swing that gets through, and you're gonna be at AP 4 rolling into them in the assault doctrine. So they're like even with AOC, they're gonna be on their impulse, and you just overwhelm them. Those heavy Thunderhammers, like I cannot stress enough how good they are, even at 15 points or whatever.
Experience it. It's one thing to talk about, it's one thing to experience it. And I've got a friend who plays Chaos very confidently. He's a really, really good player. Uh, Imagine turn 1, all of a sudden my list disappears, and then turn 2, it's dropping down. And
There you go. You're back.
yeah, I just had somebody call in. I might have to step away here for a second. We'll see. But
Okay.
imagine turn 2. Now all of a sudden you got these 3 beefy squads drop down. Probably 500 points of your army gets nuked with a bunch of strap with the extremist strat, and then you've got 22 heavy thunderhammer attacks, 10 thunderhammer attacks, 42 lightning claw attacks, uh, 15 power fists, all coming at you at once, and most of those are going to hit because I'm going to be in Space Wolf Doctrine, and I'm going to re-roll a lot of those misses. It's gonna hurt, and it's gonna hurt bad. So
I mean, I guess with heavy thunder hammers, the answer to this is gonna be no. But have you run into like any like high toughness lists where you're like, what I really want right now is +1 to wound, and you go Blood Angels?
that's what the extremist strat is for. Or,
Yeah,
but if I need to go army wide, yeah, I do that all the time. If I
I
got a lot
guess
of
like Knights,
yeah, if I got a lot of 5 or T6, I'll go Blood Angels, and it's like I don't care.
because now
Rick, give
you're
me one.
now,
We just go check and make sure I've got a plumber coming. Let's just go make sure it's not
okay,
him at the door. Give me 1 sec. I'll be right back.
cool, yeah, no problem. I'll keep going. What All right, I want to answer some of these questions if I can. It looks like actually the only one left is from Sindri asking about aggressors, and I'll ask Lou this again when he comes back. But for Lou's list, I don't see them fitting in anywhere because he doesn't really do shooting. He plinks at you while he charges you, more or less. But I love them. We're seeing a lot of switchover in the Deathwatch meta. Like people are kind of dropping aggressors and bringing more bolt in scepters because of the specialism extremist strat and their strength 5, which is actually pretty legit into most of the meta, and they throw out almost as many shots as the aggressors. So and they're much more mobile with 10-inch movement instead of what, 5 for an aggressor? Or is it 6? It's 5, I think. But yeah, I'll ask Lou when he comes back. But Lou's list is super interesting. I know that we talked about this a little bit earlier, but like he's got a lot of interesting tech that we're not seeing in the game right now. Like you said, I mean, this Vox Spiritum relic on his chaplain and the synergies there with these 3 teams that have the teleport Homer. You know, he's really thought this through, and it seems like it's really, really fun. Being able to bring in all of that oomph on turn 2 and just like nuke your opponent while, you know, not even spending all that much CP. I mean, you know, he brought up the point that this really synergizes super well with Black Templar because you get to reroll your charges. So you come in from Deep Strike, you have a 7-inch charge from the Chaplain, and then you get to re-roll it. So you're looking at getting in, you know, 3 of the 4 teams pretty consistently every single time that you do this. And that's pretty cool. So Andy's back. Look at that transition. That was actually really good. So I just finished talking about more about your like synergy, about how like your teleport Homer teams are working with your chaplain, and you can go Black Templar to reroll charges, and like how good that is. It makes it very like reliable, all those crazy charges where, you know, if you tried to do this without the chaplain, I'd be like, that's insane. Don't do this. Like that's not going to work, you know. Yeah.
These units because
Oh,
I don't
shoot.
have.
Oh, Lou, I'm sorry. I actually had you muted in case you were talking to the plumber in the background. So I'm really sorry. Can you
Okay,
say all of that again?
you betcha. All of that again. There you go.
There you go. Look, and the dad jokes are flying. All right.
But yeah,
I'm
you
sorry.
play me, but you're just gonna have to know that I'm gonna be throwing dad jokes at you. That's just how I
You
play.
are a
Part of
dad. It works
that,
out.
part of that is to help loosen my opponent up and make it fun, and just let them know, hey, you know, we're just here to have a good time.
Yeah.
I've also learned that when you get positive endorphins flowing, that people tend to have a better experience. But back to what I was talking about. So, uh, not using the beacon and jealous, I really haven't missed it that much. I'm not sure that a turn 1 charge and dropping the extremist strat is good anyways because you're overexposing your units. But by using those teleport homers and dropping these units down with that box of spiritum on that chaplain on the bike, I can't tell you what a game changing thing that was to get rid of that beacon and play differently, because when these teams drop
Mm.
down like that, the board control you have is stupid ridiculous. Because you can conga line these 10-man teams out where you've got 22 inches, 24 inches, and then with the aura from the chaplain on top of that, you've just got an incredible amount of board control. So I've liked it better, to be honest with you.
I'm gonna pose the next question and then go stop my dog from barking at the. Oh, there he is. Never mind. We're good. Hi, buddy. So there was talk while you were gone about aggressors. I know we saw them a lot, like when the Army of Renown first hit. You know, everybody saw immediately like, oh, you can take aggressors and get like 56 auto wounds and one shoot. But we're seeing, I mentioned this, we're seeing kind of a switch away for people who bring in Dominator teams. Like they're bringing a lot more of the Inceptors because you get almost the same number of shots, you get more AP, and you get more strength. Not that the strength matters if you're auto wounding anyway, but when you're not, it does matter. But that extra AP always matters. So how do you feel about aggressors in general?
I think they're really good. The part of the thing that people forget is that a lot of times people play with models that they have,
Oh
and
yeah.
I've got models that are older than a lot of you guys or even been alive, uh, and I still use them, and you can tell because you pick them up and they're metal. But um, the team that I have with the heavy flamers and the power fist and all that other stuff is about 390 points. The Endometer kill team kitted out with the aggressors and an Inceptor in there is about 393 points or something like that. It's
Hmm.
sixes point wise. And I think aggressors are really, really good, especially because they've got that punch with the power fist. But this list with this particular Proteus kill team that I'm running was an attempt to A, not use Primaris, B, be more efficient with the tools that I have in the kill team, and I will take heavy flamers on an Overwatch any day of the week as opposed to aggressors because you still have to roll the hit with those. And so this was about trying to bring more threat with about the same amount of points and still have the punch power with the power fist. And I really, really like this Proteus kill team. I prefer it over the Indominator team. The only thing I'm giving up is the T5, but if you take the stalwart chapter tactic, you're making your entire army T5, but it's even better because they still can't roll ones and twos to win, regardless of how strong the weapon is. So
Yeah.
you can even answer it that way, and it's just been really, really good. But I think aggressors are great. I think they're great in the game.
I love them. Daryl brought up like I love the model too. Like the aggressors are neat. I see you see them a lot. I think Daryl runs like I think his list at the US Open was like three Indominator teams or something. It was at least two.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I
they're
mean
solid.
yeah.
They're
Sorry.
solid. They
Go ahead.
perform really, really well. Yeah, no argument there.
Yeah. I think one of them had Flamestorm aggressors, and the other one had multi or eradicators. I know Daryl's in chat, so he will definitely let me know if that is a correct statement or not. But so there you go. That's why he's not running aggressors, but he does like them. So actually, that brings up. So Army of Renown has the teleportarium strat.
Yes.
So you could actually still do all this. So like turn one, you have your Proteus teams with the Homer, you pull them up for free. Then you spend one CP, you could pull up your Indom team, and you could still do all this. So like this tech option that Lou is showing off with the Vox and the Charge Aura, and all of that, you could still do that with your Indom team if you wanted to. If you wanted
Or
to stick one in this list, yeah,
you could spend a CP and not deploy them beginning of the game.
that's true.
There's
Yeah.
there's options, right? And that's the point is that there are so many tools and so many different ways to play this army. One way is not just the right way, right? There's so many ways to do it. And honestly, if I wasn't bringing this particular kill team, I would be bringing an Indominator team. In fact, I've got the model sitting right here. They're just not painted yet.
I love those models so much. There's supposed to be there's a rumor going around that we're gonna see the Primera style Terminators, which I always thought aggressives were supposed to be, but I guess they're not. So we'll see.
We'll
Uh,
see.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. I hope we get them into our Fortis teams or our Indom teams, but you
Yeah.
know. Uh, so Let's see. Any other questions on here? Nope. I think we're caught up on questions. So let's go to. You had a game round 5 Quins. This was a loss for you, but it was a close loss. It was 70-78.
So, a couple things about that. First off, this was a young kid from Boise, Idaho. He is a Richard Siegler in the making. This kid was just amazing, genius player. And he actually wanted to talk out turn 5. He had 2 models left on the table. Um, this was that match where I didn't want to walk away and going to bed that night feeling like I was clubbing a baby seal. And to be honest, he was a brilliant player. He just did not have the answers for all of the stuff that I had in my army to deal with him. And
Got it.
that heavy flamer unit deleted so many units. Just picked them up off the
Wow.
board. So at the end of the game, he had 4 minutes and 37 seconds left on the clock. I had 4 minutes and 21 seconds left on the clock. If we would have talked it out, I would have beat him 80, what was it, 86-78, I think. Yeah, 86-78. Because I would have got held more, hold 1, hold 2, hold more. I would have got my last Codex Warfare against his HQs, and I would have beat
When
him.
we go with that
Yeah.
Codex Warfare again.
Yeah, it's good.
You're a strong man.
For that army that I'm playing, it works really, really well.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to. I didn't want to take the win away from him because I mean I beat him on points, absolutely 100%. But honestly, he really outplayed me. He was such a good player, and his dad was there as well. And I wanted to let his dad know that he needs to keep supporting his son in this hobby of his because he's so good. He's such a
Mhm.
good player. And so I chose consciously to stick to the clock rules and give him the win when I could have walked away with a victory on that. So I could have gone 5-1, but I wouldn't have felt good about it. And he deserved it. He deserved it on top of that. So
That's
we played by the rules, and he got the victory.
there's a quote, and I can't attribute it to anybody specifically, but it's the only conscience you have to actually live with is your own. So, like, while there's always outside pressures to do things that you don't want to do, like doing what is right for you is generally speaking, in this instance, obviously, like, is
Sure.
definitely the right way to go. So, you know, um, that's awesome that you did that, because you could have made the argument either way. You're like, there's these clock rules, but also, like, we're out
Well,
of
I mean,
time.
he said, "Let's talk it out," and I'm like, if we talk it out, just understand that, this is where we're at. I said, you've outplayed me. I mean, I think you know that. I think you can see that. But if we talk it out, this is what's going to happen. But we're not breaking any game rules here by sticking to the clock rules, which we have been playing all game. Let's just stick to that. And you got me 78-70. And he's like, cool. So, he walked away feeling good, and his dad interacted with me again afterwards and actually said, I've never seen sportsmanship at this level. And he wasn't just talking about me; he was talking about
Yeah.
the players at large that were there. He's like, "This was amazing. I'm so glad I brought my son here to be part of this." He's like, "We're definitely going to keep doing this as a father and a son," which for me was a victory, right?
Yeah.
That now we've got a dad and a son going together, doing something together that they both enjoy, and having that father-son time. That was huge.
Yeah.
That was
And like what you did, was right on so many levels, because like you feel better about it by not, stealing the game. He feels good because he won. It was the right thing to do because it was good sportsmanship. Like it, it's and the best part is it's not like you rolled over and just let him win. Like
no,
he had to play you, right?
yeah.
It's not like you're like, oh, he's new, I'll just not attack with half of my units, or I'll skip a shooting phase. It's not like you handed it to him. Like, he earned it, and then you gave it to him, and that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, he absolutely did, and probably the best game I played all weekend long. Like he really pushed me. I had to think very, very hard about engaging with which units and where I was going to place them, board placement, making sure that I was moving them into the right position so that I had, next turn, next 2 turns, they're going to be in the right place. I mean, he really elevated my play as well because he was such
That's
a good
awesome.
player and stuff. Awesome. It was good. Great game.
And then round 6, Tau. So I think Shazzy was asking about Tau, so you're gonna want to listen up here. So tell us about your game against Tau. This was a solid win. 97 to 48 is my note here. So you clocked him. I think we all have our horror stories about being minced by Tau. So tell us how you minced them in return.
Well, I think one, I definitely use terrain to advantage. So knowing how to use player place terrain to your advantage is huge. You can lose a game just on that alone. And making sure I had terrain lined up, minimizing his avenues of fire with his big, I forget what the big gunships are.
The hammerheads with the big old railgun.
Yeah, the hammerheads. And then I think he didn't pick very good secondaries. Like he picked a secondary that required him to expose some of his units. But honestly, you would have been an idiot to not take Codex Warfare against him because he had 1 heavy, 2 fast attack, or no, 2 troop and 1 fast attack. So it was like all I got to do is delete those units and it's 12 points. And that was not.
Is that Codex Warfare? I thought Codex Warfare was about killing a unit while you were in the right doctrine that matches the weapon. Yeah, that's Cull Order. Cull Order. Yeah.
Cull Order. So if
Gotcha.
I've been saying Codex Warfare, I apologize. It's Cull Order.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot more sense because I was thinking like, wow, he's doing really well with Codex Warfare.
Cull Order is the one I used a lot, where you have to delete unit profiles that you pick. It was not good in the previous Grand Tournament pack because your opponent would pick and you would pick and your opponent would pick. Now you get to control all of those.
Oh, you pick now? Oh, that's good. That's so much better.
It's a really good option because then it's like, okay, you're going to run Abaddon around on the table. I'm just going to ignore him and I'm going to pick, your 2 fast attack bike units, your 3 troop choices, and your 1 obliterator unit back there, and I'm going to just focus on deleting them.
That's really good.
It's good. Yeah, it's good. And so I think those things combined together just really made it difficult for him. And then again, second time during the tournament, flying his flyer right next to that heavy flamer unit and right next to one of those Proteus kill teams with 2 Vanguard vets that can fly with heavy thunder hammers. Bad choice. And again, I'm reminding him, remember, I've got these units back here. This is what they can do. I'm not going to tell him don't do it, right? I'm not going to coach him in, but I'm going to let him know, remember that I've got these here. And so there's just, I don't know what it is about actually getting your teeth kicked in with either the extremist strat or heavy thunder hammers, but you can't underestimate the psychological effect that it has on your opponent in game state. Like it really makes them reel back, and even players that traditionally would play aggressively with faster units, they tend to play back. And Tau wants to castle up anyways, right?
Yeah.
Which for this particular army and this particular set of secondaries that I picked, I want you to castle up. I want to go unit to unit with you until I get you whittled down to the fact where you don't have any of your shield drones left and you don't have anything to protect your heavy shooting units with. So you're going to hit me with a railgun. Cool. I'll tank those on a couple of my storm shields on Overwatch. And then all of my heavy thunder hammers are going to get in and we're going to watch that unit go away.
Yeah. And that's an excellent point. Like I want to bring up again, I like we could retitle this entire interview an ode to the heavy thunder hammer, because like another thing that it does is every single time one of those wounds gets through, it kills a crisis suit.
Yeah.
They're 4 wounds. So if you bring a normal thunder hammer, guess what? Now it's on 1 wound. If you bring a heavy, it's dead. Done. Gonzo.
So we actually had that interaction on one side of the board. So I got that one yellow kill team up with all the heavy thunder hammers and everything, and he deleted a lot of it. But I had the black shield left and the sergeant left, and the black shield had the regular thunder hammer. So I just threw him in first, and then the sergeant finished off that unit, right? And it was just like, wow.
Yeah.
He didn't know what to do. He didn't have an answer for it. It's like, do I stand back and shoot, and I'm almost don't have anything left to shoot with yet, or do I throw this other crisis suit in here? But if I do, it's going to get deleted. It was just like I don't know what to do. Right?
Yeah.
It left him a little thunderstruck. No pun intended, but maybe so.
Oh man, wish I had some AC DC like queued up, but I don't. I, oh, Daryl's saying a unit needs to have fly to attack a flyer. Vanguard vets don't have fly, so they can't charge the flyer. Is that?
Oh, you know what? He might be right.
Is that true?
Oh, the good news is that I actually didn't have to charge that Vanguard vet in. The heavy flamer unit deleted it,
Okay.
but he might
It wouldn't
be
have
right.
changed
Yeah.
anything, but I always wonder about those silly interactions with the fly keyword.
Yep, he's right. So it says here that the Proteus kill team contains any Vanguard vets, blah, 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 blah. While a Proteus kill team unit only contains Vanguard vets with jump packs, it has a fly keyword. Yeah. So,
okay.
Again, going back to history, right? This is another one of those moments where in a tournament, one of the rules writers is interacting, and what we would do in 8th edition was, because whatever keyword a model brought to the Proteus kill team, that Proteus kill team had that keyword in 8th edition. It was kind of stupid.
So every other, like all your non-jump pack dudes still had fly?
You could interact with units that way. It was kind of dumb. And I started talking to judges, and I'm like, I don't think this is how it was intended. I think you need to not do this, because what players would do is they'd have like a Thunderhawk gunship sitting there, and it's like, okay, I'm going to get around you with this kill team, and you're going to sit there and shoot at me in hover mode. Cool. I'm going to swing at you with my with my heavy thunder hammers on these Vanguard vets, but I'm going to heroically intervene on you with my black shield. And it was just these weird, wonky, stupid, unintended interactions. And it was like, no, that's not how we were meant to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it is still, at the end of the day, it's still a game that is representative, right? Like, how many times have you seen a like Flamestorm aggressor unit like burn down an Aeldari flyer, right? Like, they have flamethrowers.
Yeah.
It's way up there. There's no way you're hitting it with flamethrowers, but it's a representative. It's not a simulation. God, that would be awful. It was a simulation. Because you'd have to like roll where the hits are and all kinds of crazy stuff that, wearing a helmet would matter.
So speaking to Daryl's comment, I'm actually, and I've got the model sitting right here because I'm going to make that change. I'm actually thinking about dropping the bikes off that one unit and just bringing 5 Vanguard vets so that I can have them act as Vanguard veterans and provide more protection to my captain, actually.
Yeah, there's that's kind of like a Fred Fortman style where, if you can find the points, like you could put, for whatever reason, in a Proteus kill team, all the Van Vets can have heavy thunder hammers, but like only the watch sergeant and one normal vet can have them. It's Fred and I talked about this for like 40 minutes trying to figure out exactly how this works, but it's a little bonkers.
The codex actually reads that for every 5 models in the veteran Deathwatch squad, you can bring a heavy thunder hammer.
Right.
And so you have to have a sergeant and 4 other veterans.
Right.
But if you bring, other types of models like a Terminator and a biker and a Vanguard vet or whatever, you get 1 additional thunder hammer for another 5 models. But some models can't bring them. Like you can't put it on a biker. You can't put it on a Terminator.
I wish you could put it on a Terminator. Oh, be awesome.
The model would look incredible, but it would be dumb. And so you've just got to think about, how you're getting the most efficiency out of your kill teams, right?
Yeah,
and so one of the things that a lot of Deathwatch players we're seeing now is bringing a regular Thunderhammer or a Power Fist with a chain sword so that they get that extra attack.
Yep. Yeah.
And I keep pointing out to my opponents, it's like, well, the chainsword doesn't work like it does for other Space Marines with the Black Shield. Here's the reason why, and
Yeah, because they get to dual wield. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not another attack with the chainsword. It's you just kind of get another attack from having two weapons. Yeah.
Right.
That's how the Black Shield works. Yeah.
Just a caveat here. Apparently, Battlescribe is not going away, contrary to popular rumor out there. It's going to be sticking around. I've got chat from the guy that owns and operates it, from another guy that we saw it in the Discord channel, right?
Yeah, I have a statement about it, but I'll let you finish.
Yeah. So what I was going to say was that
I'm gonna let you finish.
you need to check Battlescribe to make sure that they're not allowing you to do things that the Codex does not.
Yes.
So Black Shield with a heavy thunder hammer, it's a two-handed weapon. You cannot put a chain sword on him to get an extra attack, and that was going on for a while. I think inadvertently, community-wide, because people just weren't tracking what was going on. I think we fixed that, and that's why you're now seeing the thunder hammer, not the heavy thunder hammer, but the thunder hammer with the chain sword on the Black Shield.
So for the Battlescribe going away thing, like it is fascinating to me how this like rumor has exploded, because what is actually happening is that the Battlescribe iOS app had been flagged as being abandonware, and Apple. Right. So I'm an app guy. Like this is my like profession. So Apple had flagged it as abandonware. They're very good about going through and removing apps that are no longer being supported. And the developer of the iOS app specifically had stepped away from 40K, and so he stopped updating it, which means it's abandoned. But he's come back. He's already working on it. He's gonna get an update out there, and he has a grace period. So they say, hey, like you've been flagged as this. If you don't update it by X date, then we're gonna pull it. So it's not like it's gone, not yet. It will be if he doesn't update it. But Battlescribe is not going away. Like I don't know where this rumor exploded into. Now Battlescribe is gone and everybody's like running out to download it like on their PCs. It's not going anywhere. It's just the iOS app specifically needed an update. That's it. And the guy's already on it. He's made Twitter posts and everything. Like, so it's not going away.
Everybody chill out.
Yeah. So hopefully I squashed that. If you see anybody saying that, like Battlescribe's going away, they're probably just trolling and being assholes. But you can correct them. It's not going away. Because that means that we'd have to go to the 40K app, and I would probably stop playing this game and or like do it all by hand.
It would kill so many things. I mean, the ITC tournament scene would change in a way that we don't even understand right now, because list uploads depend on Battlescribe to get it right. Their metrics are built to track unit submission based on Battlescribe, and so everybody gets that. It's fixed. Don't worry about it. We're good.
Yeah. It'll be fixed the next few days. I'm positive of it. Okay, so it's 9:30. Luckily, it's Friday, so I don't have any morning meetings. We've been at this for almost 3 hours, and I still have more to talk to you about, Lou. I'm not done with you yet. Unless you want to tap out, I still want to talk to you just about how you want to change up your list. We've talked about some dropping the bikers, adding some more Vanguard vets, but they're more expensive, so you got to find some points somewhere. I know you have a couple extra little things, like you have that Inferno pistol, you have that melta gun, you could drop those. And then also we talked earlier about how like you were thinking about trying to get a librarian back in here somewhere, because the Xeno Purge discipline is really, really good. Like, it is. Premorphic Resonance is one of the craziest, strongest psychic powers I can honestly think of in the entire game.
Yeah, so
hard to say no to it.
Veil of Time works almost exactly the same way, and so I've actually already tweaked my list out. I've got the Vanguard vets in the one unit instead of the bikes. I've got the shotgun vets instead of intercessors. I've got time to get them painted before the next tournament, so they'll be showing up. You need to have a unit that you can advance, shoot, and charge, or advance and shoot and hold down an objective with. That's really important that you have that built into your list. And I'm really excited for this Flesh Terror's captain because I'm putting the Teeth of Terra back on him.
Okay.
I'm bringing Might of Heroes on the Librarian, so I'm going to put Might of Heroes on him. I'm doing a dual Warlord trait, so I'm going to put Imperium Sword on him.
What's Might of Heroes?
+1 attack, strength, and
oh, there it is. It's the Librarius discipline. Okay, so you're not even going to take the Xeno Purge discipline.
Oh,
man, you're on an entirely different level from me right now. Because like Premorphic, man.
Veil of Time does the same thing, and that is in the Librarian's discipline. So I'm going to take Veil of Time. I'll put that on the unit, so I'll get fights first with that unit. But by the time I'm done tweaking out this captain, he's going to be hitting you like 11 times at strength 7 with -2, 2 damage, -3 in assault doctrine, and he's just going to chew through units. It's going to be stupid, awesome fun. And I've turned the chaplain into the slap chaplain. I put the benediction of fury on him. So with Might of Heroes, depending on if I lose my captain, I can still put Might of Heroes on him. I've got Mantra of Strength on him, so he's going to be swinging and hitting almost as much as the captain does, but his benediction of fury is 3 damage weapon. So my characters are going to be not just really good buffing units for my army, but they're also going to be a threat to be dealt with on their own. So I don't think my opponent's going to want to get close to either one of them.
So Premorphic adds an +1 to the hit roll, which I know for your captain doesn't matter because he has the eye anyway, so he ignores the -1 from the hammer. But like, you know, sticking that on one of your Proteus teams,
sure,
not bad. You get fight first, just like Veil of Time, and then also you get 5 up for Overwatch, which matters with your Indom teams. I think a lot more than your Proteus teams, but you know.
Yeah, my army's just built differently, right? It's built differently to interact with the opponent differently, and I've thought about all of these interactions and where I want to focus my CP. So I don't have to worry about Overwatch. That heavy flamer unit's going to take care of it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
The other units don't have enough shooting to spend a CP to worry about Overwatch with. I don't need to worry about +1 to hit because I'm usually Space Wolf chapter turn 3 anyways when I want that extra +1 to hit. So I'm not just doing it on one unit, I'm getting it army wide.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about the fights first because Veil of Time offers that to me. So I'm still getting those answers with Premorphic Resonance. I'm just doing it in a different way.
And Daryl did bring up a great point. If you take the Teeth of Terra, you won't have the eye.
Right.
But you also won't have the -1 to hit from swinging a Thunderhammer. So so you don't really care on the captain. I do love it when I take a Proteus melee team with hammers, and you get them with Premorphic Resonance on it and Space Wolves. So they would be hitting on 4s, but now they're hitting on 3s, and now they're hitting on 2s, and then they're wounding on 2s usually, and my opponents go, what? Like, how did you get that Proteus kill team to hit on 2s? And I'm like, well, it's a, you know, there's, or, you know, you get the buff from the, and then you get the buff from the Chaplain to reroll all wounds anyway. Like, you know, you can just get ridiculous, so.
Yeah, you can get really dumb fast if you're building for it. So, you know, I love Premorphic Resonance. I love the Xeno Purge discipline a lot. I'm just trying to find other ways to play the army, and what I've been doing lately has been working pretty well. So I'm not looking to change it real soon. We've got LV teams coming up here in this next month, and so I'll be testing out this tweaked list a little bit to see if I need to make any other changes. But right now I'm really trying to find a way to bring my eliminators back in. I miss them. They're so good.
I was gonna ask you about that because like when we first talked, I was real like, eliminators are silly. How are you making them work? Your build at the time, if I remember right, you had a couple of interesting tech, and the Army of Renown didn't exist at the time. But let me see if I can remember. And this was a year and a half ago, so You had eliminators, you had a vindicare, you took assassinate as almost every game. And then what was your other big tech piece is you brought a 10-man intercessor squad, not a Fortis kill team. You put the stalker bolters on them, and you would double fire them with like like rerolls and all kinds of stuff. And so you could do a lot of crazy damage that way.
I'd put the I think it was 2 CP to put special issue ammunition on them.
Yeah, that was it.
So their weapons with 2 damage, and then you could teleport them with the beacon, and they just eliminated stuff. It was stupid. And then you could pay another CP to have them fire again, and they would just beat units like crazy. Yeah, it was pretty dumb.
Which another silly rules interaction is you had to take an intercessor squad, not a kill team, because the intercessor squad can double shoot.
Right.
The Proteus kill team cannot. That's
correct.
That's important. So
correct.
Sorry, the Fortis kill team, but yeah.
Right. So you'd go into attack doctrine, and they're at a -2 AP, and then you could with special issue ammunition either manipulate the wound or the AP value, and it's like
or the damage value.
Or the damage value, and depending how close that unit is, right, you could get upwards of 40 shots or 20 shots double tapping, shooting twice.
What a time to be alive. Yeah, it was. I played that a couple times. I probably misplayed it, but it was fun. Just the threat, like when you told your friends, like, "Hey, I can do this," they're like, "Oh, like I'm staying away from that. That's disgusting." Yeah. Which you can't because it's stalker bolt rifles, so you can't stay away from them. It's like 36-inch range or something.
You can extend the range too with SIA.
That's true. So. Yeah. Look at that.
I'll tell you one of the things I haven't run in a while, and I haven't seen it. It's if you're going to play a Deathwatch shooty army, you have to take the Phobos captain and give him special issue ammunition, because with the weapon that he's carrying, it ignores lookout sir. So you can fire sniper rounds that do 4 damage on a character with him.
Is it 2 shots or 1?
It's just 1 shot, but he's not going to miss. Not usually.
Yeah. So Sentries. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
We have a question in here asking you about how you deal with knights, and I'm just gonna say this like heavy thunderhammers.
This list is designed specifically to take out knights. And in the games that I've played with knights, and I've had some top level knight players that I've played against, the first time I played, I rolled 1s for everything, so I didn't get to see what it was going to do. I even brought the Clavis on the War Master, and just so you know, that tech for your war gear reduces their amount of tax, and it reduces their ability to hit. And so it was just, I was so excited. I got him within 4 inches of his HQ knight that was kind of piloting his army. Rolled a 3 to charge. I'm like, well, I'm only 4 inches away. I'm going to make it. Obviously, I spent the CP and I rolled Snake Eyes. And so just, I mean, you're going to have games, you're going to get diced. I got diced hard that game. So I was like, dang it. But then I went into a charity match, War Games for Warriors, and all the stars aligned. And I tabled my knight player by turn 3. I didn't have anything on the board. And then I played another night player at the Boise Cup, and sweet gal, love her to death. But I just wanted to have a more interactive, positive match. So I wasn't not trying, but I wasn't trying hard either. And tabled her by turn 4 with this list. This list deletes knights like crazy if you figure out how to play it and get them in the right position.
Man, that and the 4 damage, I know that we've talked a lot about the heavy Thunderhammer, but the 4 damage, even like, you know, if I go into a Death Guard match without heavy Thunderhammers, you know, they're gonna bring Terminators. That like Death Shroud are amazing. And you know, you gotta think about, okay, everything's -1 damage, and with heavy Thunderhammers, it solves the problem. Like, you don't care. Wound goes through, dead Terminator. That's like 50 points off the table or whatever. They're very expensive Terminators too. So like, you just the heavy Thunderhammer solves so many problems. You got crisis suits, dead. You got Death Guard Terminators, dead. You got anything like T7 and lower, dead. Right? So like rhinos and pulsars, knights. A lot of the knights are T7 still. If you go against T8 ones, you can pop Blood Angels for +1 at wound, or there's like the heavy thunder hammers are just like they're an answer that only Deathwatch has into a lot of the problems, or like big bugs, Nid bugs. Like they don't like thunder hammers.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And even one of the games I had, it was a Chaos Knight player, and she took the psychic interrogation, but she only had one psyker that could do that, and unfortunately, she put it right in the middle up front on the line, and I just got that one kill team on it, dropped the extremist strat, deleted that unit, and so I denied her the ability to score that secondary for the rest of the game. Uh, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm
But
actually curious now. I don't know if I have the time to run the numbers right now, but like one of those Proteus kill teams is even gonna punk Morty. Cause Sindri just brought up Mortarion,
yeah,
and I'm thinking like 21 heavy thunder hammers. You can make them auto wound if you really need to, and killing Morty is probably worth it because he's 450 points or something. And it's just like I think like what probably 70 or 80% of the time you probably just punk Morty. It might be more than that.
yeah, you do, and most of those armies really pivot off of him. So if he's not there, it really hampers their ability to
Yeah.
play. They don't do that as much with the new list builds, but he's such a central part of their army when he's gone. And again, and I can't emphasize this enough, there is a psychological effect that impacts your opponent when you delete a unit with heavy thunder hammers. It they just
uh,
they kind of take a step back, and it's
it's
like,
Mind
crap,
Hammer.
how am I going to deal with this, right? And it
Yeah.
really does have an effect on them.
Yeah.
So even if you just run one kill team with heavy thunder hammers, if you're not running heavy thunder hammers right now, you're really missing out on such a benefit and boon the way that this army plays. And I'm not talking Army of Renown. I'm just talking about Deathwatch. Period. Right.
Yeah. In general. And then we had a question actually way earlier, and I kept meaning to bring it up, and I just forgot. What do you think about shotguns still? Like, we
I think
saw
shot.
that in a lot of play before Army of Renown when like you would buy really cheap. You could advance them every single turn and not care because they had assault weapons. No one would charge them because at the time, like Drukari was a problem and no one would charge them because they have flamers. They solved a lot of the problems in the meta at the time. How do you feel about them now, and especially in the Army of Renown?
Well, I'm bringing the unit back in. I'm
Love it.
replacing that. I'm bringing that shotgun unit in to replace that intercessor unit because again, you have to have a unit or two that can move and shoot and get on top of objectives. That's really important in the current game state right now.
Yeah.
And shotguns are just really good. They just do work, and it's not an overpowering threat where your opponent like is stressing about it like the heavy thunderhammer issue, but it's a threat enough that if
Yeah.
they don't deal with that unit's just going to continue to march up the board and do work, right?
Yeah. And at least at the time when Jack Harpster made the like shotguns kind of really prevalent, like he elevated them. It was one of the only sources of like reliable 2 damage as well. And Marines had like just got their 2 damage, and again they're 25% of the meta ish. So having 2 damage is big, or at least what's cool is it has 3 profiles. One of them is potentially 2 damage, so that's another tool in your pocket.
Absolutely, and we're still living in that armor of content meta that we're in right now, but I think and I think it's exhibited in this, the roundups that I had. I didn't play any Space Marines this weekend. We're not seeing as many Space Marine players right now in the current meta. So armor of contempt is still a thing, but it's not a thing that you need to worry about as much. So shotguns, I think, are a great a great add to your army for sure.
Okay, so Daryl just ran the math, and assuming that Morty has no rerolls, and you use Specialism Extremist, Space Wolves to hit on 3s, 19 attacks, 12 hits, 12 auto wounds, 6 failed saves, 18 wounds, and he has a 5-up, so feel no pain, so he's probably not dead, but that's just the heavy thunder hammers, not any of the other weapons. So I guess it's a little less than a coin flip.
This is another reason why I bring those lightning claws. It's weight of dice.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so you've got 3 wounds left, or you got 2 wounds left. Okay, well here's another 21 lightning claw attacks. I hit you 17 times,
Yeah.
rerolling the wound, or if we're doing the extremist strategy, just auto wound. He's not gonna make it, right? He's not gonna make it. And it's the same thing with that heavy flamer army. I've got 2 hand flamers in that unit. So when I extremist strat a knight, a lot of times you'll say like, well, I've got 1 wound left. We're like, oh, all right, well here's 2 more hand flamers, 7 more wounds, make your saves.
So,
and they never
will. He did the math off of 6 heavy thunder hammers, 1 from the sergeant, and 5 from the vanguard vets. So then, yeah, there would be 4 more units, a black shield, which could wildly swing that math because the black shield is amazing. Yeah, I wish you could dump a veteran for a black shield and have him count as a black shield, and then bring another Terminator or something. But yeah,
we could in addition, but yeah. I think they realize the power of
the black shield.
Having a little guy running around swinging like a captain, really.
Yeah.
You put a heavy thunder hammer on him, you got a 40-point captain running around with a heavy thunder hammer on, hitting on 2s. It's dumb. So I understand. I know why it was subbed out the way that it is currently. I get it. Again, blame Anthony and I probably for this one. But
you jerks. Yeah. So yeah. All right. He doesn't kill one of the most. It doesn't kill one of the most durable units in the game. So that's probably okay, because it is a 450-point Morty versus, well, I guess it's a 391-point Proteus team, so that's actually pretty close. I don't know.
But when you delete the center of their army, things just start to collapse pretty quick.
Yeah, and even if it takes you 2 turns to kill Morty, and then he'll be bracketed and everything, so.
Well, and you can't always equate a cost narrative, a cost expense narrative just based on points alone, because there's a psychological effect that we've been talking about, but there's also the ability for characters to buff and what that brings to their army as well. So is it really just a 390-point model? Well, on the point value, yes, but what else do they bring to the army?
Yes.
And what are they giving up when they lose that? And it's more than points, right? It's way more than points.
Absolutely. I mean, he gets rerolls. He's got 4 warlord traits or something. I don't even know if I'm exaggerating. I think he has a bonkers amount of warlord traits. I think it's 3 or 4. He's very good.
He's great.
That's why they... Yeah, and he's a cool model. Did you see the latest Aspects tactic? Well, I don't know if it's the latest now. That guy pumps out content, but he has a video about Abaddon versus everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he went through and like, wow, Abaddon.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
He's a beast, man. So, again, another reason why I'm bringing a Psyker back in is because we're going to start seeing more Abby, right? So you need to be able to smite. You need to be able to, in the shooting phase, pop the strat so your Infernus Heavy Bolter or a Heavy Bolter can do mortal wounds in the shooting phase, and then you need to be able to, with that Vanguard vet unit that I'm switching out, you need to be able to do mortal wounds on the charge. So I'm trying to think of other ways to wound him in multiple phases, because we're going to see more of him. He's going to be on the table. If they're playing Chaos, chances are they're probably going to bring Abaddon. So you need to think about how to deal with him.
Yeah, playing 2 armies, I see Abaddon as my Grey Knights, and I'm like, because I can do damage in every single phase, even the charge phase. Right. There is a stratagem for Dread Knights that on the charge you can do mortal wounds, and I've actually killed Gazgul in the charge phase with that strat before, which is hilarious because no one expects to die in the charge phase.
Yeah.
But then as Deathwatch, I'm like, well, shit, I have one Psyker, and I need those powers to go elsewhere, not be a smite, right? Like, uh, like so the Psychic phase is out. Charge phase, I don't think we can get mortal wounds on the charge, except is there a strat for
With
that?
Vanguard, yeah.
Oh, with Vanguard Vets. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
So
I
you're
can't remember the name, but
so you're
basically
left to basically the shooting phase and the fight phase, and that's it. And that really limits your options.
it does. But if you plan for it ahead of time, you're not going to get cut off guard, and the chances are you're putting yourself in a pretty good position to to take care of them, right?
Yeah. This is. I mean, it's still per phase with the mortal wounds, right? Like he
It
can't
is
take more than 3. Okay. Because I was
right.
thinking it'd be funny as Grey Knights, the Prescient Brethren have, and Quinn just told me about that if he's still in stream, but he put Fatal Precognition on Abaddon during a game, which means that if he moves, advances, or charges, he can take D3 mortal wounds and 3 mortal wounds if you roll a 6 on the die. And so Abaddon didn't move anywhere. And this is super expensive, but this would be a really like hilarious thing. Is hit him with fatal precog and then sorry, in the command phase do the like orbital bombardment thing, like right on Abaddon, and then hit him with fatal precog, so he's gonna take mortal wounds anyway. It's really expensive and a dumb move, but it'd be funny.
It would be funny. So the strat for the Vanguard vets is Hammer of Wrath. I don't know that it would work against him because you have to exceed toughness.
Ooh,
But
yeah. His
uh,
toughness is 6, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, you would do it with the dice. But for a lot of units, it's another really good answer
Yeah.
to do additional damage on the charge.
Um, Daryl is saying that thank you for the interview and that you've definitely given him some inspiration for a different playstyle with
Oh,
because Daryl and I talk not infrequently, and he was talking to me like yesterday about how excited he was that you were going to be on the show, and that he felt just like Space Marines are in a real bad place, like they just don't
no.
feel good right now. So
I think generally for Space Marines that might be true, but honestly, I think for Death Watch, I think we're in a really pretty good place. And if you look at the missions, in almost all of them, um, I mean, out of the 9 missions, there's I think 6 or 7 that have objectives in the middle. So if you're not taking O's, if you're not taking shock tactics and triple dipping on your primary and secondaries, you're missing out on something. Coal order for a lot of armies, if you're aware of it, if you're attuned to it, can be a really, really good secondary choice. My army doesn't do well with actions, and so I typically take secondaries where I'm just getting those heavy thunder hammers into charge range and laying the smackdown, and it's been fun to play, and I don't think it's way OP where some of the lists are like Necrons with their secondaries and stuff, but it's definitely something to raise your eyebrows to. And when your opponent gets hit for the first time with what you're dealing with between the extremist strat, waffling between chapters to get bonuses that you normally wouldn't get, and then hitting them with those heavy thunder hammers. I mean, it is an eye-opening experience to be sure.
yeah, I mean, I can't. That's an excellent synopsis. I have nothing to say.
Now, I'd encourage Daryl to try the teleport homers and drop the beacon for the Vox or something else. There's that there's that impish side of me that wants to get in turn one with the chaplain, drop that unit, frag everything with the extremist strat.
Yeah,
But this other way of playing has been so liberating, almost like not feeling like I need to be hampered to that beacon, and being able to drop these units down, have an incredible amount of board control. And even if I want to pop that teleport strat and pull a unit off the board again, I can do that. and the
Yeah.
board control is ridiculous. The damage output is stupid, and it's just been a lot of fun.
I love the mind game aspect too. Like, my buddy Zach, he plays orcs all the time, on to be able, I want to see his face when like you set out an army and then you pull all but like 7 models back into to space, because he's gonna be like, what?
But here's the other thing that I love about it too. Deathwatch is a tricksy army, right?
Yeah,
And this is so Deathwatch. This
yeah,
is so Deathwatch. Hey, we're down here. Come get us. Oh, psych. No, we're not. Now where are we gonna be, right? And it's just, I don't know. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
yeah. The more people that get in there, like Daryl is, I don't know if you watched our interview, but he did very well at the U.S. Open. Yeah. And his friend group is like, you're a really good player. Why don't you play a really good army? And he's like, I like Deathwatch.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's like, all right,
That's
let's try this out now. Yeah.
I'm teammates with some of the best players, best in factions. So Rich Kilton, best
Yep.
in factions for Quarks, two-time Renaissance Man, second runner-up for LVO. Scott Rumpel, probably one of the best, if not the best, Space Force player out there. Jordan Gledhill,
Well,
best
Yami might be upset to
uh,
hear that.
so there's just so many
Or
good
Jaime.
players, and they keep telling me, why don't you play just Space Marines? I'm like, I love Deathwatch. I just love playing them. So
Yeah.
this is where I'm hanging at.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for squats, man.
Oh,
Dwarves are my favorite like fantasy species, and seeing them come in with like heavy power armor, and like I'm just like, oh man, they are like tickling every sci-fi. Like I love dudes in suits, like Space Marines and power armor, Terminators, like Marines from StarCraft. If you ever read the old book Armor, or the book for Starship Troopers, way different than the movie. Uh,
way, way.
all of it had like power armor. I love power armor, and to see my dwarves like encased in power armor, I'm like, oh no, that's everything I love about sci-fi and fantasy all squished together. So,
Sure.
um, well, man, it has been like three. Hold on, I have an actual counter here. Yeah, it's been almost 3.5 hours, my man. I should let you go. I
That's
should
crazy.
probably go to work.
Yeah, I probably should too. My plumber's probably sitting there twiddling his thumbs, going, "Where's the faucet for this thing you want me to put on?" So we're
Uh,
in the middle of models. I manage some townhomes for a really neat lady, and she's really gracious. But we've been going through this remodel, and so he's here to get some work done, and he's been waiting on us. But I told him I was on a conference call and that I'd be done when I was done, and he's like, "Okay, I'm on the
Oops.
clock." I'm like, "Yep, we know, we're good." So,
Sorry, man. All right. Well, I'll let you go deal with your plumber. Everybody in chat, thank you so much. This was a very well watched video. You are always a pleasure to speak to. I'm sorry to the viewers that we didn't stick on any kind of actual framework. But Lou and I, we have a lot to talk about, and we're both windbags. So,
we truly are, yeah. And I really appreciate your courage to venture out as a new player and decide I'm going to kind of catalog, video vlog, my journey through this new experience as a Warhammer player and setting this channel up. I think you're hitting a real important market niche for new players in general because you're just transparent about your experience and the things that you've had to deal with, which I think is very, very good. And I think it's healthy. But I also appreciate just the fact that you're a good guy and want to engage in a way that we can kind of get on and nerd out a little bit about some of the stuff that we love. And so thank you for having me on here. Really, really appreciate it.
yeah, man, we really need to do this more. Because like there's just so much depth to all of this. I mean, just the like if we just had a 3-hour conversation about sportsmanship, I bet it would be super interesting.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
um, I do. You like mentioning my like trip. My favorite video for like new players is when I went to LVO and I got yellow carded. Because like I submitted the wrong list. I had
Uh,
practiced for months with this one list, and there was only like a couple warlord trait differences.
sure.
Like everything else was the same. And I submitted the wrong list. And I went, I played a match, and I trounced this one guy because I thought I had warlord traits that I didn't have. And he
Sure.
looked up my list and reported me to the TO, and the TO is like, "Hey man, you gotta play the list that, like, you know." And I was like, "Whoops," but you like
We
you make,
made that mistake.
yeah,
We've all made that mistake.
you,
Even Reese
yeah,
made that mistake. Reese, I remember him
yeah,
talking on when he was still streaming before we got Kicker and everybody else on there. He was talking about it. He's like, I'm going to this Slaughterfest army thing, and I submitted the wrong list, and it is
yeah,
what it is, And so,
yeah. I mean, I just like, but the thing is, I thought I submitted the correct list, and I practiced with the list that I thought I submitted, and it turns out I didn't submit that list,
sure,
which
sure.
is, I'm playing around with lists all the time, so it's easy for me to get confused. But yeah,
For
and
sure.
the point of me sharing that story is like, who cares? Like the TO laughed about it. I went and apologized to my opponent. He was very gracious. He's like, we all make mistakes. It's no big deal. Like, and the point of sharing that story was just do it. Get in there. Make a mistake. Never make the same mistake again. That's part of learning. But like, yeah, shit happens.
Yeah, it
So,
does. Yeah, and so just default to the fact that people are good and that they're going to make mistakes. And when they do, don't. Oh, he's a cheater. No, 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 no,
just
none of
read.
that.
Yeah.
Let's cheaters will manifest themselves over time. Just default to the goodness of people and know that they're people. They're human. They make mistakes. And when has a perfect game of 40K been played? The answer is never,
Never. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
never. So,
All right. Well, I will actually sign off this time. Because this is what happens when I talk with Lou. We just keep going.
yeah,
All right.
circumlocution.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So
And
thank you everybody for being on. Like, comment, subscribe, share. This is a great video for new Deathwatch players, or for anybody who's just looking. Like maybe they feel their like Deathwatch lists are getting stale. This is a very different way of playing with the same tools that we all know, that we all love. So, um, and with that, Lou, I'll let you give your final words.
just thank you everybody for being here. Love to be part of the community and Death Watch or Die, brother. So have a great
hell,
day. Thanks
hell
everybody.
yeah, man. All right, I will talk to you later. Thank you, everybody, and don't forget,